1, go.
If you can hear the sound of my voice, then you are on LSD. Not the mind-altering substance that could allow you to further commune with your inner self or other outside forces, but the podcast and podcast network. Not the mind-altering substance that could. And tonight we have Oliver. Oliver, I've never heard your last name said, and I don't want to butcher it. Is it Hanfman?
Yeah, you got it right. You're probably the only person that's ever got it right the first time.
What's the etymology of it?
I'm German, so it's German last name. So Hanfman in English means hemp man. So when I found that out when I was like 14, I was like, awesome. Yeah, man, whoa.
I got the best name.
But it's actually the people that were the hemp men, or the people that got that last name, were the people that because the nooses were made out of hemp.
Oh,
so
that's kind of still cool.
That's pretty gnarly.
Hey, I'll fucking take it, dude.
Yeah, that's dope.
That's metal as fuck, man.
Well, we were just chit-chatting earlier before we got started and just jumped into it. And I was leading into a story where I learned, we were talking about horses and Mike getting summarily ejected from all of the equestrian facilities in Colorado. We won't go into that story.
Just
but
banned.
The story that leads me to is I didn't realize that old Italians who grew up in like 1930s and 40s Brooklyn, their shit that like they looked up to the way we look up to like whatever shit we look up to, whatever plethora we have to look up to, they love cowboy shit. Like they all wish they were cowboys. And when I lived in Texas, my grandfather came out to they love cowboy. That's John Wayne, whatever. And my grandfather came out and we went to a Mexican bakery in the Stockyards in Fort Worth, Texas, and we got all these pastries and we had too many. It was just he and I, and we ate with our eyes, so we overbought. And we're by this horse field watching horses, and he goes, "Why the fuck don't we go over there and feed some of these horses?" And I go, "Fucking A, that's a good idea." And these horses come up to us, and we're feeding them pastries, like a half a box of pastries, and they're loving it. I mean, why wouldn't they? And all of a sudden, this guy comes out, and he's like, "Excuse me, y'all gentlemen, y'all not to maybe do that because horse ranchers will shoot you for messing with their horses." And we were like, "Oh man, we didn't know it was a big deal." And it's like, "It's fine, it's fine. What are you feeding them?" And I was like, "Oh, pastry." And he goes, "God damn it, you're gonna make my horses die, man."
Yeah.
And fucking we learned a lot about horses that day. But I didn't know that old guineas from Brooklyn love cowboy shit. I learned on that adventure, taking my grandfather and watching him light up when we went to like cowboy monuments and statues and shit. And all the different, I got him like a fucking 10-gallon hat and a bolo tie and a belt buckle. He was in his fucking glory. It was amazing. But yeah, that leads me to one of the things I wanted to talk about tonight is how generationally we're all in these weird slots and how we're like watching. I sent Mike a video earlier today about like how New York is in such a weird place right now.
Oh yeah.
And I feel like that happened before. Like, New York used to be gnarly and crime-ridden and, like, wild and fucking crazy.
That was
and
fun.
Then it got really safe. Right. That was, like, 70s era New York. Like,
it's going to go right back.
That's what it seems like, though, right? Like, it's just a pendulum.
It was fun in the 90s. Like, I was there in the 90s.
But 90s was MTV New York.
No, like, it was late 90s was, yeah. I was, like, unsafely there, unsupervised, in, like, middle school. So, like, early 90s.
So you're talking, like, the end of the peep shows in Times Square, New York?
What do you mean, the end of? Yeah. Well, I mean, like, yeah, they were there, and I was like, what is this? And they're like, you're tall enough to walk in here. And I'm like, yay. Oh, God. Yeah. And then people... The only thing I can say that was different, really, was, like, it looked more like Las Vegas in, like, the 2000s, right? When I went there again.
More touristy, for sure.
But the people were the same, at least then, still. It seemed to me. I didn't have... I felt better about the people there because they weren't rude like everybody else in the nation that I had met described them. They were just straightforward. And, I'm like Asian autistic. Like, yes, straightforward. Just say the words that you want to say. So, like, I really liked that. Yeah, and then And then it was weird kind of living here because I was seeing those people come here, and I was like, yeah, those are cool people. And then I was like, but why are you leaving? Who is replacing you there? And then the most annoying people that I knew from down here were like, oh yeah, I'm going to go live in New York City. And I'm like, all right, this makes sense. Like all of these people that are like, oh, I hate it here. Everybody here sucks. I'm going to go live with my people. It's like, No, you're making everything. You make
See,
everything. Yeah.
I'm raised in the South, man. The last time I was in New York was like a year or two ago, maybe 2 years ago, and I was like, oh fuck this place, like immediately.
Yeah.
I drove in through New Jersey. We came in from the Pennsylvania side,
Mm-hmm.
and fucking my boy Tom from our show Tom Eats It on this network, he was with me, and a bum was standing at like the entryway from a highway, and was like, "Give me some fucking money!" Like, yeah. And Tom is like, again, some kind of, I'd say he's like a little Asperger. He has like just another he's a linear thinker, and this motherfucker's just like, you don't even have a sign. Like he felt like there was like a lacking in like earnest effort from the hobo and his hobo-ness. Like we're looking for like a stick and bindle. Give us something, bro. Like, you know what I mean? Like, but yeah, fucking. I was in New York for like a day. I was in Jersey with a cousin. We were hanging out visiting, and then I drove into from New Jersey to New York, and then I was just like, oh yeah, fuck yeah, no, fuck this.
That's where they all went. That's where everybody cool from the city went. They just thought we were like, oh no, this is. I know I hate. Like that's the whole weird thing. It's like bridge and tunnel. Fuck those people. And then now they're like, well, I guess I still got to work here, but fuck living with all these people. And now they all live in
where's
Jersey.
there to work? There's no restaurants anymore in the place. It's
Oh yeah.
It's getting crazy.
That's why
so weird.
That's why I feel like
weird.
it's good that those people that are like the real New Yorkers live in New Jersey now, because those people those are the real New Yorkers that are going to survive through all this. You know, all those like the hip super hipster kids that lived there during this whole thing, they all just went back home during this, you know? They all just left. And now like maybe there's no place for them to go back to, which is good. And then all the real New Yorkers are going over to New Jersey where things are at least doing, you know, somewhat better, so they can survive there, and then they can come back.
I'm frightened for the people who can't afford to fucking bounce.
Well,
There's
I mean,
probably a pretty big contingent of people who can't.
The thing is, what a lot of people do, like in the medical field, like we were looking into doing this, is you go live in New Jersey where the cost of living is less than half, and then go work as a medical professional in New York City.
I mean, that's not just the medical field. My wife works for
everything.
A big company,
everything.
And we live
over
an
the
hour
bridge
away from the company. You know what I mean? We live in the safe rural burbs outside of Atlanta. We're not going to be in the.
But there's
especially right now.
Yeah, but there's no crazy cost of living higher in America than New York City. So
San Francisco.
But that doesn't deserve it.
Yeah.
That's like where I'm from. Like that place doesn't.
San Fran topped New York this
past year. So that I mean that's why people live in like San Jose or like
when my wife
Oakland. Same thing.
When my wife received the offer for the job she has now, again I don't mention that on air, but she had other offers from other companies, and one of the other companies was Walmart's online division, and that's in San Francisco, and we went. And oh boy, looking at houses and stuff, it's like this is a 4x4 square room. You can stand, you can lean, and you can cry. That's what there's space for, and it costs $400,000 to purchase it. And I'm just like, okay, that's nice.
Literally, also, my friend, my friend who's like
you
literally
can buy for 200 G's. You can buy the corner of a parking garage. You can buy
my friend started a company, a genetics company in San Francisco, rented a room in San Jose. Also, this is legitimately he's legitimately one of the smartest people in the world. Like, not just like, oh, that's my friend. He's one. No, like, he made some major breakthroughs in genetics for humanity, made a company around it, then sold it, and then just moved back here because, like he makes enough money to now live in Silicon Valley, but he's like, nope. Just move back to Florida and just be fine, you know? Like,
so Oliver, are you a Florida guy from the root?
Yep. Born and raised here. I was in New York City about 2 or 3 years ago, and I saw kind of the same thing. There's this oversaturation of people. On the one hand, it's like, you know, it's interesting seeing the architecture and how all the infrastructure is built around supporting so many millions of people, and the population density being so much exponentially higher than it is here. But it also seems like, you know, this can't fucking last.
Yeah.
And like everyone has to be hyper competitive to like a toxic level. And, you know, I I've always thought it would be interesting on like a conceptual level, living in a place that's like an arts and culture center, but not for that fucking price.
Yeah.
And you know, I just wonder with all the stuff with COVID, like New York's gonna be reeling for years.
Probably
you know,
decades.
where's this population displacement gonna lead us? Like, you know, how you were saying some people are going to New Jersey, and that makes sense. But when the market is oversaturated there,
right,
then they just go into the surrounding states.
Well, what
they're gonna disperse. And then what we're gonna see, I think, more and more of too, though, is like reprisals from these states. So the thing that I was reading about the other day that's blowing my mind is California is looking to tax people who are moving now during the crisis for up to 10 years after
Insane.
They've moved. How
insane.
That's my home
I don't even know how you
man.
enforce that.
Like, that's not even you can't even politicize that. That's just crazy.
Yeah.
That's literally the mob saying, like, all right, you don't have protection from us.
It's a desperate grab for I can't cover my ass, so you have to.
You know,
a lot of people are blaming Joe Rogan.
Oh, that's my home state, man, and I can only remember going along with all the dumb shit, like politically, that I saw growing up because I was a child, you know?
Sure.
It's like, oh, this makes sense because the adults told me, like, that's good, so it'll be good for people, right?
That's,
but, like,
you know what? That's a great segue, not to cut you off, but that's why we kind of had you on, Oliver, too, where, like, I think we were just talking about you the other day, Mike and I, where, like, your stance, every time I read a post you make or whatever, see you conversing with somebody, it's rooted in logic. Like, take the left or right slant out of it.
Yes.
Like, it's coming from a place of, like, okay, I have an opinion, but that opinion is going to be rooted in, like, an actual progression of logic. And what we talk about a lot on this show, and what Mike, I think, was about to get into, was got to a certain level of maturity and was like, wait, what? Like, what the fuck is going on? Like,
wait a minute.
Yeah, it's insane.
Like, what I was telling Andrew specifically is, like, I really don't enjoy a lot of people's presence online.
Yes,
and, like,
this is the exact quote.
Yeah, like, I think we had been friends on Facebook for, like, 4 or 5 days, and I saw you post something, or not post something, like, you responded to somebody's comment, and I was like, I enjoy reading his words. And then I just followed it, and I think I just liked your stuff because I was like, yep.
Yeah.
And then somebody, like, attacked you, and I was like, what? You're not.
I think we had that conversation. It was like, duh.
Like, when somebody attacks me online, I'm like, yeah, I get it. I'm a giant piece of shit online for a specific reason. Yeah. It makes sense. It's like, if you understand what I'm saying, you know that I'm not really being a piece of shit. I'm just trying to get the crazy people to go away. Like, yell at me and go away. That's fine, right? But, like, you were just making reasonable points, agreeing with some things, and saying, like, I know it was the moment when you're like, I could see how somebody else on the other side of this argument would think what they think, and they were like, no,
there is no nuance.
There is no other side. Like,
it
just blew my, and like you even handled that. You're like, well, you know, that's just what people think, and then you just kind of disengaged with them, but they were like,
it's just so crazy. That's all that there is now, and it seems like folks who the silent majority is, I guess we're getting called more and more now. Like, that's part of what these conversations have evolved into, where it's like, no, man, regardless of a slant, like, I find myself to the center. Mike leans slightly to the right, I would say.
Yeah.
Most of our friends in our social group lean either from the center, slightly to the left side, but everybody's fucking just normal.
Yes.
And that's most of who we know. You know what I mean? And who are these people? It's like, to me, the same thing of, like, when people are in their cars, they react in a way that they wouldn't react in person. We're somehow like stuck in this weird, like,
I do.
I call the anonymity of being online and like, you know, not having consequences and just,
but we
you know,
even
saying
know each other in some of these cases, and we still act like assholes.
There's definitely a lot of trigger happy people. I think that because like both parties are in such a narrative gridlock that when people, you know, get to talking, there's not even a real conversation happening. They're just spouting off their talking points, and
NPCs.
Someone saying my talking points speak better than your talking points, and no one gets into, well, let's look at this specific thing.
Yes.
And then everyone gets mad, and then everyone gets more polarized, and people go further right because they want to push against this brick wall left, and people go further left because they're like, fuck the people on the right.
Yeah.
And then you have a complete breakdown of what was at least a half logical narrative at the beginning. It's hard to tell when really, I mean, I think we're all in agreement that that the two-party system is completely fucked.
Yeah.
But it didn't seem to be so fucked.
Not the
it didn't
crazy
seem
people.
to be so fucked before.
Yeah.
And this gridlock has just pushed people further to their respective sides, and they see red when you try and tell them something different than what they want to hear, and then they just rage at you.
I mentioned this on another podcast, but I was having a conversation with a good friend of mine I've known many years, and he's like, I don't know what you call it, like Southern Democrat, like old school, like they've been Democrat. Like, he says he's a Democrat. I don't know too many people who like actually say like I'm a X,
insert
whatever the fuck. Like I just most of my generation and my friend group, I think we kind of see through that thing. And like this guy was saying that, and I was like, all right, we were having a conversation where I was like, the last two presidents who I think were acting in earnest and who were actually adhering to the whims of their constituency were Jimmy Carter and Ronald Reagan, right? And he immediately emotionalized and was like, fuck Ronald Reagan. And I was like, all right,
listen,
like that's not what I'm saying. Like I'm not saying that I even agree with any of the shit either of them did. Like economically, Carter was a disaster. Socially, Reagan was a disaster. But they actually towed their party line, and not the party line of the establishment per se, but the party line of the actual constituency. And that was what I was saying. And then I realized that I can't even have this nuanced of a conversation with this individual because it's immediately like taken as a vote of confidence for one side or the other, and it's like, we're in a weird spot. And this is a smart guy.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. This is a guy who's a smart person.
I literally, my friend tried which is another dumb thing that I think people that like associate way too much with the left or call themselves Democrats do. Like he basically like doxed the guy that.
I hate that doxing
shit, man.
Yeah.
People have kids and shit.
And listen,
man.
I didn't even tell him, like, my comment on his post wasn't even, oh, this is wrong for you to do. He showed there's a little bit of his conversation with the guy where the guy incorrectly quoted a statistic to try and prove his point against my friend. So what I did was, I was just like, yeah, that guy's dumb. This is the actual statistic, right? And my friend was like, oh, you can't believe you're supporting, like, he basically was like, oh, well, it's like, he doesn't get excited like that. He's just basically like, he's all super condescending and is like, well, I mean, if you want to support a Nazi, like, that's cool. Like, he didn't say those words, but that was the gist of the conversation. And I was like, okay, fine. If you want me to now call both of you like idiots and explain to you why, this is what's happening. And then, whatever, those conversations with him always,
they never go anywhere, man.
Yeah,
they
just get to a point where I'm like, yes, you're a cunt. Like, that's fine. Like, I know, and he's like, you don't know what I'm saying. I'm like, you are only capable, even when we are having a friendly in-person conversation, of being a condescending prick. Like, that's why we're friends. So then don't tell me that what you're typing to me is all, like, just and stuff. Like,
well, I've started to think more in terms of, like, rather than left and right, because I feel like those things are so, like, ridiculous at this point. It's authoritarian and libertarian, man. It's like, do you give a fuck about what I do or what you do? Like, that's really, are you going to
because both sides,
because both sides have an authoritarian slant at one end of it, and both sides have a libertarian slant at one end of it.
Well, here's my
people who can themselves gay people to be able to marry who they want. They want people who have drug offenses that are nonviolent to be released from prison. Like, there are some real, you know what I mean, significant issues that you can go down the line, and most people on either side are like, yeah, I don't really give a fuck about those things.
Exactly. But here's the thing, like,
some people do, and that's the issue. If you care who marries who, you're authoritarian. If you're forcing anybody to do shit, that's where my separation.
But what I'm saying, so here's the thing. This is why I have to lean more to the right. In my experience with people that are willing to have, like, or that are people that are going to interact with you, right? the authoritarian, like, if here's the line, right? The authoritarian line on the right is further to the far right, right? And the
Uh,
authoritarian line on the left is going more towards the center, more and more every day,
Yeah.
because like what I was saying, doxing is like normal for a normal like left person, not a far left person. Like trying to
Yeah.
say somebody should be canceled or accusing somebody of like making a
You see
man
that
making
shit every day.
yeah, a man making eye contact with a woman is rape. Like that is a thing that not
dude, that
extreme
shit's
left
so
people.
wild.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Man
Yeah,
spreading on
man-spreading,
subways.
and
I've seen
everybody
that one where that
supporting
girl
that.
pours bleach on dudes when they got there.
Mansplaining.
Yeah.
Mansplaining's a good one.
And yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's not an that's not a
I'll tell you this.
that's not something that
These
that
people
just the
who-
far left does, though, is what I'm saying. That's why I
Right.
say
It's become more moderate. It's become
Yeah,
more commonplace.
that's why-
It's become more accepted. I
Exactly.
agree with that criticism.
and like the only reason why I say I have to lean more right is because I'm not trying to go to the right. I'm trying to go to where the in-between point of the two authoritarian lines. I'm trying to always go the closest to the middle. And in my
Yeah.
opinion, like it has to be just center right, because like you were saying, the
Well, there's
the moderate leftists are
There's
more
also a
authoritarian.
clear
now.
lack of cultural understanding when you talk about these movements. You talk about the woke movement, people that are pushing for open borders. I'm the son of immigrants. Okay, my father came over here from Cuba as a young man and achieved citizenship by attending the Vietnam War as a member of the United States Army, right? I have a real unique understanding. My father also took me under one of my earliest memories of childhood is going to Freedom Town, the place that they encamped. They called it an encampment. It was a fucking jail.
Yeah.
The Cuban refugees that came over in 1988. I was 3 years old, and I remember my dad cutting the fences with my uncle wearing their fucking Union shirts. My dad was a fucking AC guy, and he put his AC unit. And they went down, act like they were working on shit, and they were cutting fences, driving people out. Fucking, and when the riot broke out, they were fucking down there with their truck driving people. Like, so that kind of thing. People coming over here, that's always been, right? And that always will be, that always should be. But also, I think we have to recognize that, like, when you talk about letting everybody over, this isn't a culture that falls in line with the culture that you're promoting as well. Like,
Yeah.
Latin people, and that's a failing of the right side that has always shocked me.
Yeah.
Latino Americans would
Are
be
Republican.
like, culturally in a heartbeat
Yes.
if they were, like, welcomed into the group.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And there's this weird, that shows the blatant, like, people say, oh, we're not racist. And I'm, well,
Yeah, no,
kinda.
that's
Like, you know, like a little bit. And then on the left, it's like, come on, get over here, women's right. And it's like, yeah, man, most Latino women, like, they work at home. Like, they're
Yeah.
at home. Like, they're culturally, these are weirdly opposing things. And that's where I find these weird failures on each group, where it's like,
Yeah.
you don't even understand the people who you are trying to either help or hinder or whatever your stance is. There's just this that's what I think our generation specifically has a better grasp of, is because we're all mixed. We all know everybody. Like, we're the first generation. And then we also don't, Gene said it on one of the last podcasts when he commented that we were naturally progressive. Like, we were the most naturally progressive generation, our 90s
I would agree
kids.
with that.
Like, we had the Fresh Prince, and we had every culture represent. The Power Rangers was us. Captain Planet was us. That shit wasn't like, oh, we need to have one of every race. They just made it that way because that's who we were. You know what I mean? Like, so I think for, like, our generation too, I'm left scratching my head a lot of the time because I'm like, wait, what? A lot of these people haven't dealt with real oppression. Like, I've had a cop ask me, like, why are you not more brown and short? When he was looking at my ID, when I was in southern Georgia driving through for the first time.
Ooh.
And I was like, oh, that's a weird one. All right, that's a new one on me. And I've also had it the opposite way, where my Latino people have seen me and not known I'm Latino and been like talking shit in Spanish and be like, oye, mira este pinche gringo. And I'm like, ¿a dónde? ¿Qué gringo?
Like,
That's
where
my
is
favorite thing, to be like,
Where
which
is
fucking
he?
white guy are we talking about? The 300-pound one that's 6'2" right in front of you? Is that the one we're talking about?
Yeah.
Dígame qué están diciendo, primo. Tell me what's going on, cousin.
Yeah.
Fuck, bro, because it's everywhere. Like, we have this belief that there's like you being like a white dude, Oliver, like, there's this impetus that, like, you're this thing, you're this bad. And me and Alonzo were talking about it, like, last time. It's like the brown pass. I'll say some shit and somebody will be like, you can't say that. And I'll be like, why the fuck can't I say that? And then they'll see my last name is Rodriguez, and they'll be like, wait, are you Latino? And I'm like, yeah, my name's Andres Miguel Jose Rodriguez.
Yeah.
It doesn't get more fucking spickish than that. And then they're like, oh, well, well, then you can say that, and I understand your point of view. And it's like, ooh, what? Like, and I've had it the opposite way, too, going into a black neighborhood and somebody being like, hey, dude, you can't be in here. What the fuck? Like, what's the problem? Why are you in this neighborhood? And it's like, oh, he's Cuban. He's cool then. He's all right. Come on.
My Facebook name is a bait for that exact situation. Literally, right. Like Kang Flu. Like, I had to change it from Kung Flu because Facebook said I couldn't have it like that. So I was like, okay, Kang Flu, whatever. And people are like, I'm not going to listen to a guy that's racist towards Asians just in his name. And I'm like, yeah, well, I'm Asian. And they're like, well, then, I mean, I guess it's funny for you, right? It's okay if you do it. I'm like,
that's
I
the
just
weirdest
think
thing
it's
to
funny.
me. I think that's the weirdest
funny.
thing to me. I don't understand it. We should all get to make fun of each other's shit. Like, I don't.
Yeah.
That's what I don't understand. So, like, that's my question to you all. Like, being a prototypical stereotype, whatever, white dude, like, but like, and to me, when I met you, it was on stage with like somebody of every color. Like, we had a full
I've seen you.
It was a good mix. It was a good mix.
That was a fantastic, fun night. First time we met each other, and we were all siblings in music that night, regardless of our
and we didn't set quotas for it. It just
nobody gave a fuck about none of that. Like, there was no question of it. So that's what's I'm curious to like ask you, like, walking around like in this world, and you're like, I would say you're a woke person to a degree, but you're also like, but not you're not an extremist. Like,
he's responsible. He's a responsible adult.
We literally had a conversation about like, oh, that guy's lovely. Like,
yes, really yes.
So I guess I mean it's interesting to think how these artificially reinforced boundaries came to be again, because I think we could all agree on that. Like, the problem of racial inclusivity or whatever was kind of solving itself.
Yes.
You know, progressively as things do generationally. If you made racism illegal, it wouldn't disappear. It would just go underground. And so, you know, I think by putting all of this redirected focus on this issue that was getting better, certain people convinced themselves that it was getting worse, and I don't think that is the case. I mean, I can't say that. I think some people, for a white guy, I think some people are kind of abiding to this new woke conscious way of being, so as not to inflict pain or their privilege or something on other people. But I don't care about any of that shit, so it hasn't affected me.
You can't say that. You can't say you don't care about it.
Well, that's kind of my stand.
I don't care about the artificial stereotype of it.
Yes.
I care about everybody feeling, good about themselves. And that. But, like, I'm not gonna, how some people accuse people of cultural appropriation. Like, I love singing that, like, classic 60s black Motown soul type of stuff. I cover it a lot in my act. I'm not going to stop doing that, and if someone accuses me of cultural appropriation, that makes no sense, especially in the realm of, like, art. I understand if you're, like, some white dude with, like, dreads and a reggae t-shirt, how that can be, like, a little cringy.
But
I don't care if someone does that. It's your own expression.
Yeah.
But, like, with art especially, it's like, how do you expect me to not, like, sample all of these different colors of the palette? Like, that's part of being a well-rounded person and artist. And, like, everybody likes eating different cultural foods. I think it's, a lot of the
become a strange thing, right? You can't have a positive slant on anything even now, right? You can't be like, man, I love X culture. Like, I love that thing because
you can't say that.
Cool things. Like, it's like, ooh, wait. Like, to me, one of my favorite things of being a Cuban was like, and my mother was Italian, so having that combination, like, I love bringing a friend who never had Cuban food to a fucking Cuban Christmas where they got to see a whole pig splayed out in a gallina, which, by the way, means a China box, and that's 100% a Cuban thing. Like, go figure. Like, fucking, and seeing them be like, I had a girl that I was hanging out with for a while who was vegan. I remember her coming to that, and that was the end of that relationship. But anyway, like, that experience alone was such a cool fucking thing. And going to, like, some fucking Slavic kid's house and eating stroganoff for the first time was the shit. You know what I mean? Like, those experiences, I think, are what make us want to further explore. You know what I mean? Like, eating Indian food for the first time with a buddy of mine was like, oh, this is fucking butter chicken is my new jam. Like, what the?
Yeah.
Like, that's the things that bond us. And now it's like there's almost been like a
stay in your lane ideology.
Yes, and you need written approval to cross over. Like you need somebody to pass.
You need to pass. Yeah.
Psychological.
Someone has to give you written permission.
Yeah, you can't go seek things. You can seek things that are like you have shade approval based on what you are. You know what I mean? Like you have like these are approved crossovers. Like I'm Cuban, I can look for Dominican shit all I want. You know what I mean? I can look for Puerto Rican shit. I can look for Colombian. Like I can cross. And then again, outside of this culture, this generational culture, that shit doesn't exist in the Latin world. Like me and Mike talk about this all the time. Him being Asian, me being Latino. You want to talk about special kinds of racism and stereotypes? We have the ones within our own communities are the funniest and craziest ones.
Asians
like the
are the most
craziest
racist.
ones.
Asians are the most racist people in the entire world. There's more of us, and it's weird.
I had a Korean buddy
when
I was in a gym in Miami, and he was a really cool dude, but he would talk all the time about hierarchies, and he was fucking serious.
Yeah.
He was super serious about it, and he would be telling me how they're very intelligent for a Latin person.
Yeah.
He would be like, you people are known for passions.
Dude.
Like, you're known for passions. And he was not racist. That was what he was that he believed that shit. Like, he didn't have hatred. You know what I mean? It's like, I find that very interesting, too, that the distinction has been lost on, like, cultural variance in opinion and the different things different cultures think, as opposed to, like, actual, like, hate-based racism. Like, like, me and Daniil talked about this at length, where, like, he's Jamaican, I'm Cuban, and the black-white dynamic, as we see it, differs greatly with North Americans than with, like, our people in the Caribbean. Because we all fuck each other down there. We all, you know, we all grew, like, we all slided in.
That's why everybody loves my people in Asia, because everybody's fucked.
Filipinos are a good time.
Yeah, we're the best.
Filipinos are a good time.
As per, like, Chinese and Japanese people, which are the top of the Asian hierarchy, that fight all the time. So the two most racist, right? It's like, no, like, fuck this Asian race, and I'm like, but I'm Filipino, and they're like, oh no, Filipinos are great.
Come sing.
They're like, they're like, I have some pork if you would like to cook it, and I'm like, like okay, I'll cook, sing and dance for you. Like, that's why they're like, oh no, it's the best. Like, everybody loves Filipinos because we're like the Mexicans of the Orient. We're all the construction workers and like the laborers and the cooks.
Although Indians now are taking that job off of you guys.
Well, we're actually
the construction workers.
Well, we're
especially
actually
in the Mideast.
We're actually slaves in India. That's a different thing that a lot of people aren't talking about.
Well, I have like an Arab buddy who said, like, to me, like, I used to work in this really wealthy, mostly Arab neighborhood in West Palm Beach. It was right outside. You know those neighborhoods that are not quite Palm Beach Island that are really nice, like
I know exactly where you're talking about.
And it was this mostly Muslim area, and they hired security. I think they thought I was Arab because I got this nose and this beard that I've been wearing a long time.
Yeah.
And fucking, the guy was explaining to me. Oh man, I completely lost my train of thought because I'm high as fuck. What were we talking about?
I can explain to you what they do in the Middle East and India. They hire...
Oh, that's what he was explaining to me, that everybody in his culture grows up with a Filipino nanny.
That's
he was
being
like,
held
we
against their will.
love Filipino people. He was like, they are the most loving people. He was like explaining to me, he was like, if not for pork, they'd be the best people on the earth. He was like saying, he was like so fucking earnest.
Yeah, like,
and he was like, he's like, my nanny, she taught me about love. Like, he was like, it was beautiful.
That's nice.
I find that to be so interesting, like, how every culture has this different, like, you know, interaction with one another. Because most people in America, like, Germans mean Oktoberfest to them.
Yeah.
Cubans mean a good pressed sandwich. Like,
let me give you the details about his Filipino nanny. So she was probably hired for X amount of money, which is a lot more than she was making in the Philippines, to go live there for a couple years, right, and be their nanny. And she probably ended up raising him all the way till he was an adult, because when she was
she became the nanny for his kids, is what he told me.
Yeah.
I think she lived in his house.
Not willingly, because when they want to leave, they're like, no, we're holding your passport. They're not indentured servitude. Like, the only time they can go back to the Philippines is if their family's going, like, that they now are owned by.
Or with, right.
No, they're and the crazy thing is, there was this really hot Indian Instagram influencer, right? That was trying to explain it, how it was humane. She's like, no, we hold them so they don't have to go back to live in their third world country. And people are like, no, you own them. And she's like, well, we own them, but it's better for them. Like, and I was just like, how?
There's a hot take.
Yeah, but that was okay. That ended up just being the okay line that she ended it on. It's okay to own Filipinos because it's better.
But that's what it is everywhere. It's like, look, okay, I'm Cuban. If I see somebody with a Che Guevara shirt, I've seen many times people explain away how that should be an acceptable thing. And it's like, well, you heard a Rage Against the Machine album. I get it, man. I'm not going to punch you in the face for it. But if I did, and we were in Miami, and a Cuban cop responded, a 50-year-old Cuban cop responded to the call,
they might not.
They might not even give me an ice pack. Like
they may not see anything.
Yeah, they might lock you up and buy me lunch. Like so depends. It's all perspective. Like it's all fucking. That's what it all comes down to. So it's like you see something that's innocuous to somebody. Like there's people in India who wear swastikas on their body that have never heard about the Holocaust. They have no idea what the fuck it was.
That's different.
You know what I mean? It's very different. It's very different. But if someone saw, but it looks enough like a swastika so that somebody who was uneducated might be like, oh, what the, you know what I'm saying, dude.
Do you know in India and
because I know dudes have that tattoo and they're like, oh yeah, they're doing it to be edgy and shit. You know what I mean? It's not a swastika, but it's like, do you know what the fuck it looks like? No, that's not why they're. Well, the people I know are assholes.
Oh, I mean here, yeah. I'm talking about in Asia, all of Asia.
No, it's a different thing there.
When people, Americans see what they think is a swastika, and it's actually the Buddhist symbol for unity. It's like all legs moving in the same direction.
Yes.
And Hitler fucking stole that shit and reversed it.
If you don't know what the fuck that is, and you see it on some fat guy who's like a punk rock dude, and he's rocking that shit. So it's like, I get why he did it. Okay, like, I was 14 too once. You know what I mean? Like, fuck, like, but again, it's all perspective and shit. And we are all standing from this unique one. And now it's so interesting to me how certain perspectives have been given more. And it's like we should be coming into this age of enlightenment where we're like all unified in our value.
And whereas the woke now we're culture is like psychologically segregating.
Well, it's like everybody. The kid who used to be the hall monitor or the safety patrol.
No, because even that guy had some friends. I don't know. We were trying to figure out who it was, remember?
I mean, I was for a while. I got in trouble for yelling all the time.
But we were trying to figure out.
They took me off the case.
Yeah. We're trying to figure out, like, one podcast, like, who are the people? Like, who were they?
Well, because, like, we've talked, even our friends that lean really hard one way or another.
Yeah.
When you sit down with them and have a conversation, even if you get to a point where it's like, well, we've got to agree to disagree, there's no love lost.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So who are these people who are so militant that they can hit somebody in the head with a fucking stick or a bike lock? You know what I mean?
Justify it.
And justify it. And get tons of people to justify it.
Yeah, and feel go to bed. And they sleep at night thinking that, like, man, I think back to some mean shit I said to my siblings when they were children and I would older than them, like, when I'm going to sleep at night, I'm like, I was a shitty older brother that year.
Take my brother with oranges.
Or like, if I eat some mushrooms, I'm gonna think like, oh, I was really mean to my wife last month. I gotta take her out. Like, who the fuck can do? And let me. This is coming from a man who, from my childhood into my early 30s, my job was punching people in the fucking face on a canvas mat in front of other people. Right? And I still am remorseful about my words. The viciousness. So like. Who is this?
We figured it out.
Did we? Because I don't remember.
We figured it out on our talk 2 nights ago, because I was talking to you about that article that you said you think you've seen too, where, like, people a little bit younger than us are, like, that are like that, not people our age, but like the half a generation or the generation behind us. Like, don't have an inner monologue. They're only able to.
We were talking about that. Have you heard about this, Oliver?
Yeah, that's insane to me. Like, that people don't have the voice in their head. Right? Like, how do you process your thoughts? Are you just an animal ruled by your your instincts?
They're NPCs.
We were discussing this
They're
we were
non-player
Yeah,
characters.
yeah.
that our
On either side.
we were talking about.
It
this
is hard
as-
for me to
as-
believe that we have so many billions of people in this world, and I'm supposed to expect on good faith that all of them can think for themselves.
Yeah.
Right. So here's what we were saying. So
Sure
as
doesn't
a
seem
parent,
like
we're
it.
both parents.
Right.
We're both parents, and we were noting the other day about how our kids now have the opportunity to never be bored. Like
Yeah.
it is completely possible for my daughter to go from the Switch to Disney Plus to the tablet to whatever, if I allow that, right? If I allow that behavior, it is physically available to her. And she also lives in a world where access, like I remember the first time that we were visiting my grandparents when she was like 3.5, 4 years old, and spending like a week in Florida and staying at my grandparents for a couple of days. And my grandparents have normal cable, and she was like, a commercial came on. She's like, "Dad, why'd you change the channel?" I was like, "Nobody changed it, buddy. It's a commercial." And she was like, "What?" She was so shocked. So I was explaining to Mike that I make her practice
told her that it's an
stillness. Right? It's like it's an advertisement,
Yeah.
and, and she's
If you would have said it's an ad, then she would have been like, "Oh,
well, no,
can't
she
we
even
skip
doesn't
them
think.
in 3
She
seconds?"
she doesn't even think about the ad thing, like
wow.
because most of the stuff because we pay for premium.
Oh.
And so she's living in this luxurious situation where she doesn't have to ever sit in stillness unless we are diligent as parents. So my wife and I make her practice boredom. So she'll be like, "I'm bored." Like I'll be like, on a Saturday where we've been out, we like to hike a lot as a family or go swimming. So most weekends, that's one. She has a swim lesson, and then we usually have a hike one day. And there's windows where it's like, yeah, go watch whatever you want, buddy. Go ahead. We're not like super stern parents. You want to put on Disney Plus? You want to put on Netflix? Or I'll be like, the caveat sometimes would be like, you got to watch something educational like Super Y or Wild Kratts. You know what I mean? Like, but then there's times where it's like, no, you know what, bud? While Dad's prepping dinner and Mom's putting away the stuff from the pool, you need to just hang out. And she'll be like, what? And I'll be like, you got to just hang out. You got like 2 hours of just hang time.
Be alone with your thoughts.
What do I do? And I'll be like, I don't know. You got books, you got sketchbooks, you got coloring books, you got toys. Use your imagination. Go figure something out. No electronics, no TV, no tablet, no whatever, no VTech. And she's like, okay, I can do this. Like, and she like goes into it with that. And I realize like at school they're learning on tablets. So everything for them is an automated thing. There's always something providing them with a direction. They always have the waypoint activated in their video game. Yeah. And so I recognize that when we were kids, you'd literally just like, okay, Mom, I'm going out on my bike. Into the ether I go. And I ride my bike along until I see a cluster of my friends' bikes on one of their lawns, and I knock on that door because that's where the adventure begins. And like, that doesn't exist anymore. Playdates are organized. They're scheduled and supervised. So like, these kids, I feel, are kids who were raised without the benefit of having parts of their childhood be analog, and they were completely always guided and measured and monitored, and there was always a direction provided to them, and they don't have the need for like sometimes on a car ride she'll be like, oh, my tablet died, can I plug it in? You there, Oliver? Did we lose you?
Uh-oh
We might have lost Oliver. Hopefully he'll come back. It might be just a battery issue.
Yeah. Well,
but anyways,
if we were... No, he's on a computer and everything, I believe.
Oh, okay. I don't know. I don't know the technical part.
Yeah, it's cool.
I don't pretend to understand it.
Nope, he gone. That's okay.
Oh, no.
I'm gonna ring him again.
Yeah. I'm sure it's just a connection issue. But like what I was saying, we have to be diligent to provide our kids with the opportunity, I think, to develop that inner monologue. Otherwise, they're going to be just like these NPCs who don't have anything going on of their own.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, man, it's like what you were saying is like your daughter like sits down and she's like, okay, I can do this, right?
Yeah.
So like the people that we're talking about, they can't. Oh no, what happened to my everything?
Uh-oh.
There it goes.
My everything.
That's weird.
Have we been banned by the media that fast?
I mean, it's a possibility. It's always a possibility because, we were trying to get Loomer on, and hey, we could have been banned. Who knows?
Right, for that alone.
Just for me trying to reach out.
Who knows?
Well, I'll
Are we ringing Oliver?
I'm ringing him.
He's ringing right now, yeah.
Yep.
So anyway, so go on, Mike.
I forgot what
you were saying. You were saying how we discovered that we solved that issue. We thought in our conversation that evening.
Yeah, that like your daughter just having that like, okay, I can do this. The people that we're talking to that are extreme on either side, don't like they can't do that. They don't have like, all right, I have to sit down and figure out what to do because everything's like you said, like the example that really hit me was like the wayfind point is always on, right?
Yeah. Yes.
And
there's never a free roam for them.
Yeah, and I was thinking back to it because I just installed a Chrono Trigger.
Oh, I remember that was Tommy Donuts from Tom Eats, his favorite game when we were kids.
I love Chrono Trigger.
That was Tom's #1 game. I remember many a time where we all planned to hang out, and Tom sat facing the wall playing Chrono Trigger while we all hung out at his house.
So, crazy thing about that, I'm stuck because it doesn't automatically try to, tell you where to go. You know what I mean?
Yes. You have to figure it out.
Yes. So, like, I'm literally stuck just running around. Like,
that's why I love games like Fallout and Skyrim and stuff like that, because you can turn the little waypoint off and just wander around. Hey, Oliver!
We're back.
There we go. Sorry.
No problem. Where did you leave us?
All right, so we were on the topic of the benefit of children being bored sometimes.
Yes.
And I agree that that's a very vital skill. I think that, too many people are used to just having, the occupancy of their mind being filled by something, delivering something to them automatically.
Yeah.
Where it's
appeasement.
Like instant gratification. It's like fast food entertainment. It's given right to you, and to some degree that's just the age that we're in. But you have to find some sort of balance where, part of life is fucking boring, and maybe you're bored because you're not doing enough to make, to satisfy your own entertainment needs, and that's how you get like, a kind of lazy mind, or how you get, that's probably what I would think of the seeds of a mind that doesn't end up thinking for itself, because you don't spend your time chewing through something. You get something that's given to you all the time.
Right.
Like, I mean, I don't watch children's cartoons too much, but every once in a while I do, just to see what they're like. And they're just all fucking over the place now.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, maybe I'm not a good judge, or I saw a bad episode, but they're all based on like this 10 to 15 second like attention span, like little ching, like,
I specifically curate what I allow my daughter to watch based on the fact, like, it has to have a couple of things. It has to have a storyline. It has to have syntax. It has to have an understanding. Like, it has to have a general idea. Like, okay, so like I let her watch the Troll Hunters series, Guillermo del Toro's cartoon series.
Okay.
Like, I let her watch like Clone Wars and shit like that. But then there's other shows where she'll be like, "Can I watch this?" And I'll be like, "Let's sit down and watch it together for a minute and let me see what it is." And it's like just literal
fucking
cocaine.
nonsense.
It's visual cocaine.
Yeah. It is.
My wife and I didn't have, like, our parents both, my wife's father passed away when we were young, and our other parents were not, like, super diligent or focused on raising us. They had other issues like making money and stuff like that to deal with. So, like, we both are kind of like trial and error a little bit, and we don't have like a lot of people have a direct like go-to in their parents when it comes to their child raising. So for us, it's been a lot of like, let's see what, we're figuring things out. We're both intelligent people, and we're learning as we go. And part of the thing is like, I went through a thing of like, when my daughter was like 3 years old, it's like, Saturday we're gonna watch cartoons all morning. Saturday morning cartoons, let's do it.
And then you saw what those cartoons were.
Not even what they are, man. Just what it does to your kid, regardless of what those cartoons are. Like, there's some stuff that's really great and really deep and really fun, really educational. We watch, like, Wild Kratts. There's a lot of animal facts. My kid knows so many fucking animal facts because of that show. But, like, the reality is what it does for your kids, like, reward system and their endorphin system is much like fucking an amphetamine.
Yeah.
And you watch
like
kids get strung out. You watch them get weird if you take it away. You watch them get zombified like an opiate. It is a strange thing to see. and it hijacks the reward system like a motherfucker, and they don't have any ability to disseminate that information properly at that age. Their fucking brain is still mushy. Like you're allowing so much shit to inundate, and so like I just feel like I had lazy parents in a lot of ways because and so like I think I was lucky. You know what I mean? Like, there's people who had lazy parents, maybe who could afford more or whatever. That those kids' brains just got melted. Maybe I don't know. That's all I could figure for this like NPC person who doesn't like. You don't. I don't understand. I've still not met one who doesn't have an internal monologue.
Yeah.
All right.
Have you met anybody?
Yeah. Yeah.
Who? Name names.
I'm not going to name names, but I can give you a good example.
We know the names.
I could give you a great example of like a precursor to when the NPC thing was big, right? Like I was like an annoying atheist asshole liberal, right? And I was at a bar with
so
James.
The same thing as now, except conservative.
Yeah. But I was more mean about it. I was more mean about my like you know how the average atheist is like, fuck you, you're stupid. Like, you're not just stupid, you're the fucking dumbest person in the room for
I've never
believing.
Met that guy.
Yeah,
I've never met that guy.
You've met me.
Again, like I've never seen you be that guy.
No, but I was that guy. So, but I was.
But I have seen the super, and I've never seen the like. That's the thing. Like all these stereotypes, all these archetypes. I've never seen them. I've never seen them. I was saying this earlier on a post on Facebook.
Yeah.
I've known a lot of fucking redneck good old boys who love their fucking rebel flag, and I've shared a lot of joints and beers with guys like that, and they never seemed to care that I was a spick. You know what I'm saying? Regardless of however I answered the phone when my tia called me. You know what I'm saying?
But you can't say that because you don't look. Oh, then you can come back with, you can't tell me how I look. I know what you're talking about. But I've met the precursor to the NPC people when I was that asshole atheist guy, right? Like I said, I was at a pool hall with James Eagle. I was a little high, which is uncharacteristic for me. Which all that did was make me nicer, though. Which was should have made the situation not escalate the way it did.
Bro, you saw me the other day when I was on my little break. I need that shit. Yeah. I need the mellowing agents.
So there was this one, like, kind of cute girl that was talking to me, and I was trying to like get James to talk to her. This is like about 10 years ago, right? This was a while. This is a long time ago, and so like we're talking, and like James was like the same as me on as far as like the atheism thing, right? So we were making fun of the Mormon religion, right? With her, and she was like, "That's funny," and I just casually said, "I'm like, yeah, man, it's funny. It's like the same thing as like a virgin giving birth." And I was high, and she had this giant cross on, and she was like, "What did you just say?" And I was like, "Oh, it's just like, I think it's all dumb." And she's like, "No, you stand right here." And she went to go get like her like jock guys, and she just started pointing at me, and I was like, "Hello? Like, I'm high, I don't care." And then like they were like, "That's the guy." Oh yeah. And then they were like, and James was like, "I guess we're getting into a fight, buddy." And literally at that moment, like, it's because they were there. The only reason like we were even talking to them is because my buddy who worked with them was like, "Come out, we're all gonna have a good time." And then he met a girl and left us there with his coworkers, right?
Right.
And then at the moment they get real close to me, their boss breaks a beer bottle and threatens somebody with it. So then they have to go take him out. But as they're taking him out, it's like, "We're coming back for you." And I was like, "All right, I think we're leaving now because I don't want them to come back for me." Like, but that's like the same person as the NPC person. There was no like, "Wait a minute, I'm trying to figure out what he's saying." It's like, "No, you said the thing. You said the thing that makes me fight you, and that's what we do now." Like, there's no discussion. There's no back and forth. You did the thing.
Two fundamental different kind of people. People who just go like, "You said a thing, I have to do a thing." People who go like, "Wait, why did you say that, or why did you do that?" Like, they're two very different, thought process, and it's like, it's almost like there's not allowed to be any layers in between that either anymore. You know what I mean? It's very weird. I
like Oliver said, no nuance.
Yeah, I feel socially inadequate now because I go out to places, at the last times you could go out to places and like listen to conversations within our social circles and around the places that we hang out, and it's like Yeah, I mean, I'm just, I don't know if I'm old or whatever. I just can't relate to anything anymore. I don't, it's all so extreme and overzealous. I don't, but
Like,
then again, these people aren't talking to me. You know what I
yeah.
mean? Like, I don't see any of them coming to me with all the shit. Like, it's like, I don't know.
It's just,
Who is all the zealots on either side talking about? Because they're
well,
not even about each other. Like,
well, I mean, you did meet one actually. Now that I think about it, that story that I am now telling on every podcast, where you and Mike were at prop, and this guy was like, "Oh, this Mike Novoloso guy. Oh, I
oh
can't
yeah,
stand him. He's a
yeah.
racist. He's got this black
Yes.
baby as his
Oh man.
profile because he thinks all black people are crying babies, and it's a picture of my son
Yeah, and I was like, that's
who's
his son,
black."
bro. And he was like, nah. And I was like, I don't even know. I wish I remembered who it was. Because
Yeah.
it was somebody who I knew, who I kind of knew. You know, there's so many people in that
Yeah.
scene who it's like, you know, superfluously, peripherally, whatever. And like, I was like, Mike, you know this fucking guy? Like, he thinks Novoloso's, that's not his kid. And then Mike was like, ha! That
Yeah.
fucking, like, that fucking loud fucking Mike explosive laugh.
Yeah.
Ha!
His
Fucking,
cackle, yeah.
dude, and it was like this weird moment where the guy was like, oh!
Yeah.
Like, you know when in Futurama where you tell a fucking riddle to a robot or whatever?
Yeah.
Fucking, yeah.
The logic
Fucking-
loop.
Yeah. It was, but it's like, there's so much of that
There you
now
go,
where it's
man.
like there's all these stupid qualifiers.
Yeah, you met him. So, but that's the thing. Like, you've met, and that's
Fair.
the loud minority, though,
Yeah.
is the thing, because in that whole room there were so many people that were like, well, not in that whole room, like just in that small interaction that you had, 2/3 of the people were like, no, that's not the case. And the
Right.
one guy was like, logic loop, brain broken, and it's the same thing with like that terrible gang, that's the SJW gang, the
Oh,
hardcore
God.
guys. You know who I'm talking? The vest wearing guys. So they're like a few of them have like painted me in a specific way, and like threatened
But you
me.
say that, but then like every time you see any of those guys,
No, that's what I'm
everything's all
getting
good.
to. That's what I'm getting
Yeah,
to.
most
Like,
of those guys
I'll,
are chill.
I'll meet somebody that's not one of the few people that hate me in their group, right? And there's like this moment where they're realizing who I am, and then they're actually listening to me like a human, right? And like they're getting ready, like I may have to get this guy, but then like, oh, wait a minute, why do we don't hate this guy, and then 99% of them that I've met in those situations, when they're like, I gotta go, man, but I gotta give you a hug. You're like a great guy. I'm like, oh, thank you. So like,
That's
you
what
know,
I'm saying. Most people,
most of that
when
group,
faced with each other, everybody's
Yes.
gonna be cool. Like, I remember specifically when all this shit was starting to get weird, and all the riots were like starting, and all this stuff was starting, and like I was in a Publix, and I live in a really like multicultural area right outside of Atlanta. Like, there's a lot of people of all different kinds. There's a big Asian population. There's a big black community. There's, you know what I mean? Like a lot of Southern
Yeah.
white folks. Like, everybody was there at Publix, man. Like in the fucking produce aisle, somebody's looking at plums, somebody's looking at bread, somebody's looking at
Yep.
fucking berries. Like, everybody's just getting groceries, man. Everybody just has the same wants and needs at the end of the day. Everybody needs to be fed and sheltered and felt valid. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
that's what we need to focus on. And then all this polarization really takes away from what we could be focusing on, which is like the necessity for fucking major police reform, better training, like all that kind of shit. And then it all gets
That's-
hijacked by assholes. That's everything every time.
That's the crazy
Politics,
thing.
Yeah.
fucking social shit, everything gets hijacked by assholes every fucking time, and nothing gets done.
And here's
Yeah,
what,
it's not even about the issue itself, it's about
Exactly.
the narrative that they're pushing.
Yes.
And then it's always strange when you meet someone face to face and they're like a fucking normal person, and you're like, oh, this person seems balanced. And
Yeah.
then, like, somehow you see, like, a Facebook post or whatever social media post, and you're like, oh, wow, this guy's radical as fuck.
yeah,
And then you
Right.
start wondering, who is the real him? Like, is this the face he puts on, or is this an internet persona that he's trying to get so that he conforms to maybe his
Social
surrounding
group?
group that he's
Yeah.
in? Yeah. Or, like, what
See-
exactly defines this person and what causes this fundamental disconnect between who they are in person
We've
versus
talked
who they
about
are,
this.
yeah, we have.
so much. And part of the thing that always bothers me is, and Mike knows I get fired
Yeah.
up about this. I competed in combat sports from the age of 4 years old to the age of 30. I'm 37. I'm about to be 37 years old. I had my last competition right before I turned 31. Okay, I spent years of my life bleeding on canvas. On top of that, I grew up around a bunch of fucking savages. Guineas on my mother's side and Spics on my father's side, and fucking animals all the way through. I remember my cousins taking me to McDonald's and robbing people in front while I played in the ball pit. Like, I come from real fucking animals, and a lot of the people that I see with that radical talk, and on both sides, I see a lot of guys on the right who are like, we're going to have to, and I say this term a lot because I think it's a cool term, like, we're going to have to water the tree of liberty, but it's like, hey, dude, you can't walk 5 miles.
Yeah.
Like, what the fuck are you talking about? I have a lot of friends who are like Q guys and shit like that who think that there's going to be this big fucking awakening and then there's going to be a battle in the streets killing pedophiles. It's like, motherfucker, you got to huff and puff on the way to your fucking community's mailboxes. What are you talking about? And then on the other side of all these people who are like, we need to storm the White House. That's the new thing that they're talking about. In September, they're going to storm the White House.
Do it.
It's like, yeah, what's your range time like? Because let me tell you something. If there's 5 SEALs on the ground, 500 of you are going to be in fucking trouble.
Yeah.
There's going to be a lot of one-shot kills in that 30-round mag. What's your range time like? You ever done 3-gun? You ever been in a firefight? You ever been in a fight? Like, that's the thing. That's the problem I have with all the radical talk, is that it's like nobody is really about shit. It's all fucking masturbation. It's so gross. It grosses me out so much. And I've talked to you about this too, Mike.
Yeah.
How many times, and you've probably been with me and Morrison and Marlon and seen this happen to all of us, where somebody wants to talk to us about fighting.
Yeah.
Specifically,
they come up to that group of 3 of you.
Fighting.
Yeah.
And people always want to bring up fights. They all, and it's like, okay, like, yeah, sure, man. We'll hear a weird story that's convoluted and some kind of weird thing. And it's another type of like virtue signaling thing.
Yeah.
Where it's like, me and Marlon and Mike probably more want to talk about music.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, you can probably talk to us about music, or like talk to Marlon about the cool shirts he designs, or talk to Mike about like which bar he's going to be at working because they probably want to see a friendly face. Like, you know what I mean? Like, what the fuck, man?
I actually want to touch on something that Oliver said, like, who's the real person, the person you met, or the person that they are online. And I remember one thing that you said to me, Andrew, when we were first just being friends and hanging out, is you were like, you said something like that. You're like, man, like every single person I meet is like different on Facebook and then online. He's like, but you talk the same shit to somebody's face that you talk to them on Facebook. And I'm like, yeah, man, I don't care. Like, this isn't, I don't know how to be like one way and then the other. I'm just like, I have to blurt out, or I have to blurt out the, like, what I'm thinking. Like, I think about it, but it has to come out, you know?
Right.
Like, in an autistic way. And it only can come out, I can only type the way I talk, and I can only talk the way I type, kind of thing. You know, that's just how I am.
Well, that's one of those things, too, though, where, like, that's the other thing, when we talk about, like, people who don't have the internal monologue and how weird that is. Mm-hmm. I don't understand how so much stuff gets misconstrued now. Like, it's almost like there's, like, the comprehension level, like, the general comprehension level has dropped or something. Like, when I see, like, how often, and and this is a question to both of you, how often do you see somebody completely misunderstanding what somebody's saying?
When that guy attacked Oliver.
Like, I see it almost every day. I feel
he was just making.
It's like, wait, didn't you read that? Didn't you understand that? I don't see what, like, the fuck you're talking about. Like, but so Oliver, like, I don't know, man.
That was like 2 days ago. That was like 2 days ago that I saw that guy just start yelling at him when all he said was something completely rational.
I love how it's all in text, but you're like, he was yelling at him. You could feel it.
No, I knew that guy because he switched tones and like in the way he was typing. That's the other thing too. I don't really switch tones in the way I'm typing, so I can understand how I get misconstrued online.
Well, you type like a bot. You type like a fucking bot.
But like, no, that's the thing. Like, the same guy that I was talking about before, when the whole the guy in Atlanta got shot at the Wendy's, right?
Yeah.
He made some post about it, and all I said was the way that the prosecution was setting it up was poor because these are their points, and these should be the points. First response from him and his friend.
Emotionalized.
No, they literally said, imagine supporting the cop that shot the guy in the back. And I was like, I didn't say any of that. I wasn't even talking about the cop. I was talking about how the DA
prosecution, the
was
DA,
prosecuting him incorrectly, and if you really wanted to convict him, this is what the lines of logic that you would go on. But he went on this, and they're like, "Oh, he's doing the right thing. They already found him guilty by firing him." And I was like, "I'm not talking about whether it's right or wrong. Like that's the whole thing that I don't understand. Most of the things I'm saying online, I'm not saying like this is right, this is wrong.
That reminds me exactly of what I said about
math.
Reagan and Carter.
Yeah, this is the math. Yes.
You're separating. We're not talking about the emotionality of it.
And that's what you did.
We're not talking about the bipartisan piece of it. We're talking about like the literal math of it, the literal sum of the situation. Like,
and I thought that guy that yelled at you, Oliver, was like understanding that until you said like the wrong thing. Like you guys seemed like you were having an okay conversation, and then he just shut off his brain and NPC'd at you, and I was like, oh.
Yeah, it's because I feel like at a certain point it goes to the same thing of not finding nuance, but when you're going to ignore the nuance, you kind of enforce this artificial false dichotomy of it either has to be this narrative or this other narrative.
Yeah.
And I think that got like to a level of nuance that he couldn't
process.
He couldn't engage in that further
Yeah.
to where he's like, all right, I have to default to you're in this narrative and I'm going to engage you in that way. Which, I mean, wasn't what I was saying, but it seems to be what happens. When there's a breakdown of the nuance of conversation, you get boxed into something that is not representative of what you're saying,
Right.
and prevents the conversation from going any further because they're attacking what they see. You know, they're looking at you, but they're seeing a mirror image of like themselves in the sense that they're projecting their image of something else onto you. But so they're engaging in like a mirror, you know, they're not engaging with you, and the conversation doesn't go any farther. So I mean, like I typically don't engage in political like rants anymore. I mean, if I think like it's an interesting conversation, or if it's something that I'm moved in, or if I'm bored, I'll do it. But like most of the time, it just ends up leading to nothing. That doesn't mean I want to completely stop, because it's important to have these nuanced conversations so the fucking 10 people out of 100 or however many you want to slice them, you know, can get some sort of derived benefit from that conversation. But like, I see people tear each other's heads off for like 2 hours, and by the end of it, the conversation is still fucking nowhere. And it's like, you just wasted 2 hours of your time. You're probably pissed. You're probably going to be thinking, I should have said that like for the rest of the day. Like, you know, I could have really got him if I twisted it this way. And like, you know, it's not a productive way. It's not a healthy way of being. I see, I just don't understand. I definitely would agree with what Andrew said, how the general level of comprehension has dropped. It's interesting to me what exactly caused that, and like what mechanisms were at play to drop the general comprehension, because I would say that that's it. And you know, I don't know if it's just because like I'm older, or because like I was fortunate enough to like develop a more nuanced perspective, but like it's hard to tell whether or not this nuanced faculty was there and then diminished, or was never truly there, but the political discourse wasn't so radicalized, so maybe you didn't notice it as much.
Well, actually, so I actually have some insight into this, because so the way people yell at me right now for being like a Trump supporter, when like I just think he's funny, right? That's it. I don't really like a lot of what he does, but I'm not like, oh, this is different, you know, because like every president does things that people don't like.
That's the thing that bothers me. I say it every time.
So, when Obama was president and people were calling him all this stuff, I was like, I mean, he literally shut down my business in like 2011, so I didn't like him then, right? But like, because of one of his policies. But up until then, I was just like, yeah, man, like he's just a president. He's just getting the people that got him into the office their money back. He's not a Muslim terrorist, and if he's a Muslim, it's okay. And I actually and I was dealing with like that extreme politicized person from the right then, right? So like, and I was going through those same like, do you not comprehend what I'm typing? And then I would like have to type definitions, and then that was like, here's the difference though. When I would, like 50% of the people that were like far right calling Obama like a Muslim terrorist, right? When I would explain to them like the difference between like extreme Muslim Islamic faith in the Middle East and Islamic faith in America, it's like westernized. Like they're not cutting off the hands of their women for like going
Yeah.
out and stuff. They're like, oh, okay. I'm like, it's people trying to get away from that violence of that the extreme part of that religion that are here. 50% of them would be like, well, all right, they're in the right place. Yeah, we want them here. The other half would just be like, no, we should bomb them all. Like, you know.
Yeah, yeah,
Whereas
yeah.
now I can literally just state a fact, like correct, like that first discussion that I was talking about with my friend. I wasn't even trying to correct him saying that he was wrong. I was trying to say like, hey, look, that guy messed up, so you can like go at him with this. Here's the
I've had that
correction.
same thing happen.
And then they
You're
just
trying to correct the discourse, and now
Yes, and
now
now-
you're the fucking target.
yeah, man, that's and
Yeah.
it hasn't even been 50-50.
It's like a feeding frenzy mentality.
Yeah,
You
it
know
wasn't
what I
even
mean? Like,
50-50 though. Now it's like 99-1 now,
Hmm.
and I'm not. And that's the other thing that people like really like pile on me for. Objectively, right now, just in the current time that we're at, like you were saying, even the moderate left people have more extreme authoritarian, like not you saying. I was saying that, and you agreed. Like the moderate people agree with more of the left authoritarian values than the moderate right people.
yeah,
like,
it's become more of a commonplace value.
yeah. Just stating that, like, oh, that's what I would expect from a fucking dirty Trump supporter. Like,
Yeah.
come on, man. Like, I own Trump gear ironically. Like, I wear that shit on October 31st because if I wear it any other day, like, people aren't going to get the joke from it. You know?
Oliver,
Yeah.
I got a question for you, and I've had this
Okay.
question for a lot of guests, and
Yeah.
it usually leads to a stepbrothers. Oh my God, did we just become best friends moments? Have you ever played any of the games in the Fallout series?
Yeah, I have. I
Like
played
Fallout New Vegas
Fallout.
or-
Yeah, I played Fallout 76 and I think
Okay.
Fallout 4 or something like that.
Okay, so you play. I'm just voting whatever's gonna bring that on. I'm fucking.
Yeah.
I,
Yeah. Well,
I
it looks like
wanna-
we're well on our way.
I want to put my kid on my back in a backpack and wander
Yeah.
the world with a shotgun.
I don't think so.
And my wife's kicking it with my dog, and we're pulling a cart full of scrap, and we got. It
doesn't seem like we're that far away.
I
Yeah.
don't
You know,
think so.
that's when we were talking about the riots a couple weeks ago. One of the things that I said that I like appreciate about the riots is that we live under the auspices of this fictitious structure, this like social agreement that we all kind of adhere to, and like maybe it's by the virtues of like having lived in the weird world of combat sports through a lot of my like formative years, but like it always seemed funny to me how people didn't hit each other. You know what I mean? In normal thing, like in a gym, if there's ever a problem, you could just solve it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you could just go handle it. You could go both glove up and go full bore. Even when we were kids, it'd be like, okay, you guys want to like really fight, go fight, but body shots only, and hit each other as hard as you fucking want. Like, and I always like laugh and talk to my wife's colleagues and her friends who are in the corporate world as she is, where it's like, man, just the language that you guys have to speak. You have to have a whole other language that you speak. You know what I mean? In order to maintain your career, essentially, you can't be like, "What the fuck did you just say?" Like, and I feel like the Nerf covered like reality that people are pushing. It's just so weird and foreign to me because the worlds I've lived in have always been so strict. Even like as musicians, say what the fuck you think. Like everybody says what the fuck they think. Like you know what I mean? We don't cloister each other in any way. Like there's a lot of like our friends who like pulled hard to one side or another, and everybody says what the fuck they think. So, is that like a part of it? Are a lot of these people coming from a place where like they've developed in a world where they have to like?
There's no consequences for
Well,
running
but they
your
have to
mouth.
obfuscate all their feelings. Like they have to hide everything that they're feeling and saying under this like approved like vernacular.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like. Because I don't know, I don't understand that world. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like, I
man.
don't get it.
I understand it because I told you when I was that atheist asshole, like I subscribed to all that bullshit, man.
Well,
Like,
you've also done like corporate type jobs, right? Oliver,
Yeah.
have you always been a musician purely, or do you have any other kind of like square gig
I
that
love
you do?
corporate jobs.
Pretty much generally musician. I mean, I worked in like restaurants for a little bit in front of house. I fucking hated that shit though. But I can't say that I had a real legitimate job in a corporation. I have a biology degree, but I
Oh yeah, I
never really
wanted to
did
talk to you
anything with
about
it
that.
because yeah.
I
Right
wanted
on.
to talk to you about that because, like Andrew was saying, you're probably like more center left. So, like
Yeah.
when you talk to people, I know there's like a legitimate difference between like gender and sex, and I know one of them is a construct. But what's like what's your idea of people making both like the biological the same as the construct, like trying to push that narrative? You know what I mean?
That's fucking ridiculous. I
Yeah.
think that's absolutely ridiculous. I
Ugh.
support whoever's right to identify as whatever they
Exactly.
want to identify. But
Exactly.
you can't like try and throw mud in the whole conversation and say it's all bullshit.
Yeah.
Like, there's
Ugh.
tons of things that there's no crossover at all. People bring in like these niche edge cases where it's like,
Hmm.
well,
One,
like
like one.
0.1%
Yeah.
of like men are born without a dick, so what are they? And
Yeah.
like, well, they're a fucking edge case.
Yes.
That doesn't
They're an
happen
outlier, yeah.
almost fucking
Yeah.
ever. And I mean, and I think that's another thing. Like too much time of the political landscape is spent and wasted. And like it's not like it's an issue that never needs to be addressed. Like
Exactly.
it can be addressed. That's fine. But like so much of the political discourse is like not nuanced, but centered around social arguments that really don't have bearing on like how life functions and
Yeah.
like things that are really going to benefit the fucking society.
Mm.
Like I remember for like a couple months or whatever, they're like, so what, are the trans people, do they need their own bathroom, or are they going to be in the men's bathroom, or are they going to be in
You
the
know-
girls' bathroom?
Yeah, I've got insight from like the trans friends that I have. Like I think I talked about this on the last show. Like a lot of my trans friends are like, we don't want this like attention. Like we want to
Dude,
Yeah.
yes,
be
yes,
like we just
yes.
want to do our own thing. And my
I know
one
very few trans people, and the ones I do know probably wouldn't want to be bothered with that
Exactly.
question, want to be left alone.
Yeah, my one friend, she specifically says like, if somebody addresses me as a man, that's my fault because what I'm trying to do is appear as a woman, so that people naturally like address me as a woman. In which case, I would use like the woman's bathroom, so nobody would question like, why is that woman going into the man's bathroom? You know, like
Yeah.
they're trying to be that gender that they identify, and she was talking about how like all these guys that just like throw a little bit of makeup on and get mad at people for not addressing them like a woman, as a woman. They're like they're just seeking attention. They're just trying to get on the internet. And I was like,
Yeah, I think that shit's crazy.
Ugh.
Like, I had long hair, like really long hair, and if someone came for me around the back, I was like very skinny. I mean,
Yeah.
I got a couple times someone were like, hey chick, or hey lady, or
Yeah.
hey miss, and I'm not like, oh my fucking god, my entire identity is fucking crumbling.
exactly,
Mm.
yeah.
It's just like, no, I'm not.
Now, and that actually brings up a good point, though, where I've always felt sympathetic because although, like anybody else, I have things about my body maybe that I don't like I'm overweight and shit like that, I work on that, but I've always been happy in my skin. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, like, I always try and give a little bit of, like, I guess,
Not
empathy.
me.
You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, yeah.
because it's like, I don't know what that's like. That's got to be fucking rough, like, rough times. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, that's hard. So I always try and give a little bit of like,
Well,
I don't know what the term, you know what I mean, like,
yeah. What
Some empathy
Yeah,
for their
exactly.
situation.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
you know the people like the people that I've seen them gravitate towards more are like people like me, and then the people that are just around them that get on the bandwagon to support something that they're not about will always say
Yeah.
like, how can you have how can you talk to that guy? Like the same way with with David's friends, Andrew. They're like, how can
yeah,
you
one of our
how-
previous
yeah.
guests, yeah.
how can you be friends with that guy? And he's like, well, you don't know him. Like, he's disagreeing with your ridiculous point, and he treats me like a human, and I treat him like a human, and we're good friends. Like, that's all they want. And this is what I don't understand about who are these people yelling at that are like being discriminatory supposedly towards these trans people, right? Like, if my one trans friend says, if you misgender me, that's like my fault because I'm trying, like, and I just need to try harder. But like, and the person that misgenders them isn't like doing it on purpose,
Right. It's not
like,
Yeah.
malicious.
I don't see the malicious people, even the people that are like protesting that, like they should have their own bathrooms because they're weird. Like, if they misgendered somebody, it's not on purpose. Like, I haven't seen them do it. Like, show me these people. That's what
Right.
I always say when people say like Palm Beach County is overrun with white supremacists. I'm like, show me. Let's go fuck them up together. And they're
Yeah.
like, oh well, you
Yeah.
gotta uh like
You got to sniff them out. They're hiding, but
yeah.
I know they're there.
But they're
Well,
all
that's the weird
around you.
thing
Like,
too, right? The goalposts have been getting moved over and over. What's a
yeah,
white like?
Yeah.
What's this? What's it's like? That's the other thing too. Like I don't know. I don't like when the term racist gets bandied about because like I want to know who's really a fucking racist, man.
Yeah.
I don't want to fuck with them. I don't want to spend my money in their establishments. I don't want to be around them. I
but
don't want to have my kid around
Yeah,
them.
it's the same thing how people will call anyone who disagrees. Like, people would say if you don't support Black Lives Matters, then you're a Nazi.
Bigot. Yeah.
And it's like that waters down what a fucking Nazi is. Like,
Absolutely.
let's
Mhm.
find who the
We were
real
talking about
Nazis
that
are and
earlier.
Absolutely.
fucking
Yep.
get
Yes.
those people
Yeah.
vote those people off the island.
Exactly,
Yes.
right? And that's crazy though, what you're talking about, they'll try to do that on that side. They'll be like, look, this guy that owns this restaurant in Jupiter supports Trump and he makes these t-shirts, that say racist, but it's like radical Trump supporter or whatever. Like you
Yeah.
I think you know exactly what I'm talking about. Like, it's people were trying to like get this one restaurant shut down. And I was
Yeah,
like,
yeah, I saw that. That was in like Stewart, I think.
yeah, and I was like, okay, cool, yeah, this guy's a racist. And then I looked at the shirt, and it was like a funny like acronym for the
Yeah,
word
he's
racist.
trying to like take the narrative and twist it into
Yeah.
something like a witty retort or
Exactly.
whatever.
And he's got the MAGA flag, and people were like,
Yeah.
let's ban this racist. Like, this is a racist. And I was like, guy's not a racist. Like,
That
in
shit
the
caught
one,
on too, dude. That
Yeah.
shit grew pretty big. I saw a lot
Yeah.
of that.
I was
I don't
just
know if
like,
it's still going on. I don't know if what ended up happening with that guy, but
the
I
guy,
That's
I
rough,
remember
man.
that shit.
but that guy,
That's
that
rough.
guy
I've seen that with
just,
a few businesses.
that guy just supports Trump. Like, that, like,
Yeah.
literally is it. And he was trying to sell
Yeah.
shirts, probably because his business, because I think it was around the beginning of COVID too, so like nobody was going out. Like when I say show me, you know what I mean? Like, we're all saying that's not it. And
Well,
then
and again,
Yeah.
it
and then
goes
they
back to these
but they use
monolithic
that though,
ideas.
Andrew. But they use that. They're like, well, every time I show you a racist, you're like, it's not a racist. So then you must like support real racism. I'm like,
Yep.
those
Yep.
aren't the guys. Like,
But it's like I dare those same people to go to Hialeah
Yeah.
and call a bunch of staunchly Republican Cubans racist and see what happens. Like
Yeah.
they'll find out real fast. Like, and again, there's that cultural variance where it's like people want to say like black and Latino people, everybody's the same. Man, everybody's the same. Everybody has the same wants. Everybody has the same needs or the same desires in their heart. Like they want the same things. Most people are good. Also, my people probably go hands on a little faster.
Yeah,
It's just the
yeah.
truth. Like I don't know what I can't speak to other cultures. You know what I'm saying? Like, but I know like my dad's punched me in the head. Like that's just how it goes in my fucking culture. And like that's the thing that everybody wants to act like everything is beautiful from every culture. Where it's like, yeah, there's good shit you need to cherry pick, and like there's some fucked up shit you shouldn't slap your wife.
Yeah.
A lot of my people have done that, especially the generation before mine. Like, it's
yeah,
just,
man. It's like
It's just,
Gene.
you know what I mean?
Gene and he didn't type. Gene said like he made a comment back when like I was talking about that interaction you were having on Facebook, Oliver. Like saying that most people are making you like the mouthpiece for their bias, so that way they can yell
Yeah.
at you, like you were saying.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
like Gene and and our buddy Kevin say there's bad people in all groups.
Yes.
And for
Yeah.
some reason,
Yes.
this weird like inclusivity woke culture is trying to like make all the bad people one race, and that's just like, or one occupation, like that's just like so statistically inaccurate that I can't get on board with everything. This is where I really saw that for a while I was just kind of centrist, like 100% centrist, but now I had to Oh yeah, Gene said something. Yeah, being a minority does not mean you cannot be racist, and that's what a lot of these people think too. They're like, "Oh no, only white people can be racist." It's the dumbest shit
Yeah,
I've
yeah.
ever heard. Like,
Yeah, yo, my people are racist as
yeah,
fuck, and we're racist as fuck to our own, like
everybody.
hard.
Yeah, that's
Hard.
the other thing. But where was I going? Oh shit, I lost my train of thought. Um, what was I talking about? Oh yeah, where I was super centrist, like both sides are equally bad. But then like, I think it was last year, the the woke left started attacking STEM, like the International Science Association,
Oh yeah.
and they were like, it's racist. They're racist because it's mostly white people. It's actually mostly Europeans, but that's a different thing. But they're like
And
all these
sexist because
and
there's
sexist
not enough women.
Yeah, and so they're devaluing all the science and research that comes out of like the international science foundations as so and to bolster their stupid ideas that are go against so now that gives them validity when they're like, well, you can't trust the science or this fact because as we've shown, science and facts are racist, like, or sexist or transphobic. And
Yeah,
I was just
I've
like,
seen those crazy things.
I was just like, and then I bring that up to what I think are the moderate left people, and they're like, yeah, that makes sense. All white guys just doing racist stuff, making science to make their point. And I was like, no, like.
I wonder what the staying power of those mentalities is going to be, though. Like, I don't think that stuff can last.
They're
I think
trying
the
to,
math.
but
It can't last. It can't
normalize
stand the test of time because
Right,
it
and
has
the
no
math
real
always
ground
will,
to
like,
stand on.
Right.
Yep.
Right. Like the ideologies will change,
Well,
but the realities will always exist. Like,
Yeah.
even if you burn all the science books, eventually those equations can be
bad.
found
Yeah,
again.
it's
But-
like there's this great example in Sweden. So they've created a more forget what it is, but they tried to level the playing field or
Equality
get
of
more women
opportunity.
into other fields. And there's other with like psychological statistics or however they conducted the tests. Fundamentally, men are more interested in things, and women are more interested in people. That's why you find more women in hospitality or service.
Social sciences
People,
and shit.
social jobs,
Jordan
and more
Peterson
men
study.
are engineers or like builders,
Yeah,
businessmen,
the women.
stuff like that.
Yeah, the women were given the opportunity and they chose.
Yeah, and they chose against it. And I
Yeah.
mean, if you're gonna try and still push that point, like they tried to
tried to
the
push
other
it.
way, and that's not how it worked. How are you gonna try and support that narrative? And
Right.
then like
'Cause it
when
was
you
run
try
by
and like
white
push
men.
people, yeah, and you want to give all these like high status jobs. Well, the vast majority of men are bricklayers. The vast majority of dangerous jobs are done by men.
Yeah.
Hey,
And I mean, I don't think anyone is
Hey,
like trying
hey,
to have.
you can't do that Jordan Peterson type talk here, buddy.
Yeah, right.
It's very interesting to me how these crazy lines have been drawn over this past 4 years, essentially 5 years. This has really gotten like deep. And you talk, Mike, often about how you remember when you were younger, like the epicenter of this.
I'm from Northern California.
This mentality.
The very like literally like Andrew said, the epicenter of the everybody gets a trophy generation because and it happened when I was like from second grade to third grade because I was a badass bowler when I was in second grade, and so was everybody on my little team, and we just wiped the fucking floor with everybody. And then it wasn't even close, right? And then in third grade, same thing happened. Nobody, like, we were even further ahead of everybody. And then we all got the same trophy. And I was just like,
Yeah.
fuck this,
It
man.
destroys the incentive to achieve.
Yeah, I
and
literally
like,
quit.
it makes losers winners. Yeah,
Yeah, I quit.
I remember I played baseball, and our team like lost whatever district thing or whatever when I was like 8 or 9, and we lost. And then they still handed out trophies to everyone. And I remember even as a kid, like, I don't want this fucking trophy.
Yeah.
I lost. Why would I want something that commemorates the greatness of my defeat? Like,
Yeah.
where's the growth, like, objective in that? Is that just to, like, comfort my hurt feelings? Maybe you're supposed to be hurt for a while, so
Yeah.
you're driven to achieve more.
Yes,
I
I
literally-
absolutely.
Yeah,
I'm
I
so
literally
glad
stopped
that
doing
this-
bowling and went to video games. And my mom was like, "Why
Yeah.
do you want to do that?" I'm like, "Because the video games it lets me know when I've really." It
Video
feels
games don't
better.
lie.
They don't. It's a
If you're
computer.
getting fucked, you're just gonna get fucked. If you're
Yep.
gonna fuck people over, you're gonna fuck people
Yeah,
over.
man. That's
Well,
it.
coming from combat sports, man, you can't play that game of
No.
everybody gets a trophy.
Yeah.
If you get knocked the fuck out,
Yeah, I suppose it's very clear in those terms.
Yeah, there's no. And the times that it's not clear, people call for a rematch because it's interesting that
Yeah.
it was such a stalemate or what have you. Like, the fact of the matter is, like, meritocracy, there are some places where it's just, if you're, like you said, men being bricklayers, if you're a bricklayer, either you're fucking good at it or your back will break. You know what I mean? Like, there's just, in the summer, I used to work construction jobs. My uncles had a buddy who would get me and my brother jobs, and we were working on a site in like Coral Gables where we're breaking ground for a big ass house, and we're literally like, I was literally on ground like with a pick and a fucking wheelbarrow and another dude with a shovel getting the small pieces out that I was smashing out of the earth. And like, what's that meme that goes around, like, you never got punched in the face, and it shows a lot of you people there, like, it's that kind of thing that, like, that separates you from, like, I think a certain, like, level of, like, understanding, like, certain thing of reality where it's like, oh, no, like, we're mortals, there's limits, there's, like, everybody out there was equal. Like, that's true equality. Everybody's sweating, every ethnicity of guy, you know what I mean? Like, every fucking, and all sweating, all running up to the 9 a.m. lunch truck and the noon lunch truck and the 3 p.m. lunch truck because you're hungry because you're working hard. Like, it is what it is. Some people want to get rice and beans. Some people want to get a corn dog. Some people want a fucking egg roll. It's all fucking the same thing, though.
So, I actually want to take it back to something that that you guys touched on, like, why you think it's, like, we don't have to worry about, like, them attacking STEM, like that culture attacking STEM, because, like, it can only last for so long and it'll come back. So the problem I have with that, like, why you can't just kind of let that kind of stuff go is, we are 600 years behind, like, science, math, and education, like, than we should be, because an idealistic group took over the Middle East and burned all of
the Library of Alexandria.
Yeah,
and stuff
they
like
burned that shit to the ground. They were literally, like, on the cusp of, like, trig in, like, 600 years before Newton made it in his basement.
Well, and like, then, but wasn't it prior to that, like, Genghis Khan did the same shit? You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
I don't
that's
want.
What we do.
I don't want that. I don't want an idealistic group to sweep the world and have us reset.
Is that our control? Like, is that our control unit? Like, that we are so cannibalistic ideologically that we
Dark
essentially,
Ages, Gene said, set us back a lot too. Like,
we are culling our own populace. You know what I mean? Like, we are managing. We are like land managers of humanity by being ideological zombies at times. Because look, you could go back over and over again, like Gene said, like the Middle Ages, so on and so forth. You can go, how many different eras? The killing fields in Cambodia.
But this is the longest amount of time.
We culled ourselves.
No, I mean, as far as world knowledge, right? This is the longest amount of time that we've gone without doing that, and I think we're to the point where. Yeah, and I think we're to the point where, like, it would be impossible to, like, burn down Alexandria right now, but it wouldn't be impossible
unless it was like
no, the internet. There's no way to delete the entire internet. I mean, there is, but
really, like, if the moon
you can try, but, like, there's pirate islands that hold, like, pretty much the whole internet on them as well. Like, but so that's what it would have to be. It would have to be like people burning the world to the ground for the knowledge to go away, and then people survive.
Yeah.
And I don't want that. And that's literally when everybody says, you know, like, these movements aren't violent. It's like, yeah, man, they kind of are sometimes. Especially, I consider that on their terms. Like, when you're attacking math. Like, math, that's violence to me, because now you can, if you don't have math, like, as a control,
that's the very foundation of reality.
Yeah, like, that's, if you're attacking math and you can say that that's not real, then you have just cause to literally take anything to any extreme and justify it, to me. So it's literally.
But that's been proven over and over again that as humans we're willing to do that. Like,
but we're at a point now where, like, you need a certain thing, like a certain behavior to justify your violence. And if you, like Gene said, that's the keys. Those are the keys to, like, you can literally do whatever you want and it's justified, because now math doesn't, like, they literally call it like you're adding things up.
Yeah, they're
you know?
trying to limit the validity of like the cornerstones of reality, essentially.
Exactly. And once you do that, you can be as violent as you want. You can call people transphobic and give them the death penalty because now science and facts like don't exist.
I think the problem though is that there's a majority of people who just don't feel that way.
But the whole thing is like you said, there's that veil of like social thing that we have.
That's what I mean. Like if we start executing
real.
people for words, it's real, but it's not, man. It's real until there's a certain tipping point.
But the problem is what I have a problem is, so the way I presented it, like it seems extreme, like it happened right away. But these are things that they incrementally do. They're incrementally like locking you into, like, if you are on the left at all, they're kind of like mentally locking you into like, if you agree with us, you have to agree that math isn't real, kind of thing.
Sure.
Yeah, certain paradigms. I would actually agree with the criticism that this aggressive, loud minority of people spouting these ideals is actually very dangerous. Yeah. I'm not saying that because it won't stand the test of time that it's not something to be worried about. Okay. It's absolutely something to be worried about, and it's already devastating the impact that it will have because we have to spend time, instead of moving forward, retracing our steps in the sand back to the proper path. And, like, depending on how far down this rabbit hole we go, will determine how truly devastating this impact is, whether it's going to set us back years or decades. I mean, I don't think that we're going to end up just, destroying each other, at least hopefully not. I have hope that we're not going to stoop so low, but I do think that things are going to get increasingly worse before they get better, because I think that people really, like the really obstinate people, the people that fail to see nuance, the people that want to keep butting their heads against the wall in the dark and keep thinking if they do it the next time, this will be the time I get through, when that's just not the way that, that it really works, shit, lost my train of thought.
Yeah, these are rough conversations to keep your thought going. You're hopeful that we're not gonna do this, but the consequences are, I think you were going down that road.
Yeah, I think it's just a matter of redirecting the narrative. I think the two main narratives are gridlocked right now, preventing any real progress in the debate. And as time goes on, the less obstinate people, the people maybe higher in trait openness, might be more receptive to alternative ways of thinking about these things after realizing they've been butting their head against the same goalpost for so long and not getting anywhere. And I really think these are like the growing pains of a more mature mindset that is going to include, hopefully, a more nuanced perspective, simply because of the fact that if we don't develop a more nuanced perspective, we will only destroy each other. We aren't going to progress any further. I said in one of my comments or whatever, on that thread, or another thread, that Einstein said the same level of consciousness that creates a problem cannot fix that problem. So we have to transcend the ideologies that are hijacking the majority of people now, so that we can actually transcend the problem. Because if we don't do that, we stay gridlocked in the same fucking place. So, some people, they'll never fucking change, and that's just part of life. But there's going to be an increasing amount of people, hopefully, that will start to see, all right, well, maybe this, but maybe not that. And that's the beginnings of, having a more balanced perspective instead of just voting team blue or red.
Yeah.
And calling the others names.
So I have two things to say on that. So you're speaking to like people that have nuance, right? Andrew and I, right?
Sure.
Yeah.
Here's the problem with other people that do, but side more with the left. The issues of the people on the right that are extreme, they're old issues that we've identified for hundreds of years are bad ideas, right?
Yeah.
Now, the new ideas on the left, they're new, right? Not new, but they're packaged
relatively new in the relative space of time.
Exactly. They're relatively new, so there's no like historical reference for regular people that aren't hyper politicized to just be like, well, the left has to be right because, you know, there's no historical evidence
they care
that
about people.
Yeah, exactly, right? So that's the only reason when I say like I have to align center right, because the it's like the hypnotizing way of the progressive, like so-called progressive left gets the regular people like you and I that aren't invested in it, you know what I mean? Like just go like, oh no, I'll just go with them, you know? Like that's not a good thing. That's why I don't like that.
Well, that's also what we mean, I think, when we talk about the goalposts moving, right?
Yeah,
like, the idea that, like, my whole life in my family, I was considered very far. Like, again, with Cubans, I'm way left. You know what I mean? Like, so, like, now when I talk to people who are, like, really consider themselves left enough to give a fuck, like, I've been called alt-right. I don't know what the fuck that means.
Like that Laura Loomer lady that is crazy, but
is it like Voldemort though? Should we not say her name?
Oh yeah, that's right. Like you could probably get banned on. She's banned on all platforms for fighting for free speech. Like, and she won the primary in the District 21 in Palm Beach County to like run for the House of Representatives. But the other thing I was gonna say was the hope part. That you have hope that there's these people. As I've told Andrew a lot, there's that generation. They're now like 16.
You love talking about these
kids.
Dude,
these kids have like 16 to like 21, right? They have like the highest IQ in the history, like starting natural IQ in the history of the world.
You sure 21? Because I see a lot of kids working at Wendy's.
That's what it's like. It's fucking dim. That's the edge, though. That's the edge. That's like the farthest I'm gonna give them, because like the
because I'm thinking like 17 to 15. Like, you know,
the strong independent thinkers in that age group were in 10th grade in 2016. So now they're like sophomore in college now. You know, like that's about the age group. That's why I give it like a little bubble, right? Bubble on either end. But those kids have like the highest starting IQ in the history of the world. The most objective thinkers, and like from the center left all the way to the extreme left they're the most centrist, like robot, like these are facts group of kids, and the left has called them the most conservative generation to ever exist in America. And they're just hard center. They're like, no, this sucks and this sucks. I
think that's because now the facts are being called, you know, Republican or conservative talking points.
Right. They're no longer facts.
Centrist.
So here's the thing
but that's the hope though that I was talking about. Like,
they're
gonna be the majority.
I agree with that.
Eventually.
Yeah. I think that the older you get, the more intellectually or politically rigid that you get, and the harder it is to change after being in a mode of being for so long.
Yeah, but they're not. They're already like at that forward thinking phase where they're like, wow, no, everybody that's picked a side is crazy. We just have to not kill each other until they can control the country.
I know. That's going to be the
that's
fun
the hard part. Yeah, that's the growing pains you were talking about. I think and I tell that to Andrew, like we have to keep the country a country until, and they're also their population size is the size of the boomers and millennials together. Those are the two largest populations of America.
So I got a question. I got a question. Do any of you guys know somebody who has like a gang of kids, like an old school gang of kids, like 10 kids, 8 kids, 12 kids, some crazy number like that?
Nope.
So I've known very few people with that number of kids, right? But like once you start getting down to the young, once you start getting down to the younger kids, right? They get a little feral. Like the younger ones, you know, like, that's fucking Junior. He doesn't really like shoes, and we don't make him put them on because we're tired. That's really what it goes down to, right? Like, I wonder if it's a population issue. I think back to a bit that Greg Giraldo, the late comedian, had, where he would talk about how, like, Civil War soldiers would write a letter, and it would be like, "My dearest Hannah, I write to you on the morn of our assault of Gettysburg. I wonder if the future will hold my love for you, or if I will die in these fields." And then, like, you go to, like, a guy who is writing from, like, the Gulf. He's like, "Dear Marie, I'm out here in the desert. Don't fuck nobody while I'm gone."
The desert,
Like, is it just that there are so many of us, as the generations go down, we're just becoming watered down versions of humanity, and as we go, as we get further, as our population grows, as we continue to boom as humanity, we're just going to get fucking dumber and dumber, and there's no way to stop it. Like, there's going to be more people without an inner monologue as the generations go on, and it's going to become like that fucking Mike Judge movie.
That one generation.
Yeah.
No, that generation.
Yeah, but is that one generation? Is that one
the last
generation
one?
a derivation? Yeah. Are they a boom
one?
before? Are they a spike before a massive drop and dip? Are their kids going to be like worse than the boomers and millennials combined?
I don't think so.
Just be like,
I don't think so.
What's going to happen next? You know what I mean? I'm so.
Their
I just
parents
don't have that much hope for humans.
No, their parents are a mix of people that are hard left and hard right, and they come together and they basically share their parents' ideas, and they figure out as a group like, oh, both of
cherry pick.
Yeah, no, they just they come together and they figure out that, oh, both of our parents are stupid and crazy.
Yeah.
We're both smarter than both of these people. All of their crazy extreme ideals are dumb, so we're going to stick to the center. Now, the boomers are a product of like being like their parents, like roaring 20s people, right? So like they're going to want to be more conservative. And then like the Gen Xers and millennials are a product of the boomers being conservative, so they're going to go like way to the other side.
Yeah, they're almost like nihilistic.
But this generation, I don't know. We don't have an example of what their kids are going to be like. We don't have actually we do. It's Japan, and Japan fucking rocks. But because Japan
unless you get caught with a bag of weed, and
unless you get caught with a bag of weed or an Islamic symbol on you.
Yeah, like, unless you are the nail which sticks out and is to be hammered down.
Yeah,
that's the ideology in Japan. So like every beautiful has its fucking every beautiful mantis is eating a cricket's head.
But
you know
the
what I mean?
centrist,
like, there's horror in all beauty.
So actually, I mean, it's probably not good.
Like
because,
that order is not.
Well, what
great.
I'm talking about, like socially, like that's more like their government being like, we're
teenage
centrist.
girls' panties in fucking vending machines.
But that's not. Like, that's actually not a thing anymore. The thing now in Japan is people are so intellectual they don't want to reproduce.
Oh wow. Yeah, I've heard that there's like a population drop in Japan.
That's what you see in developed countries. You see that as people get more invested in their careers or have more opportunities available to them by not being tied down with kids, that they tend to have less. Like most European countries, the proper replacement level for population is 2.1 because some of us die before we reproduce and some people don't have any kids. But most of the rates, like in France, I think it's 1.6, and like a lot of the other ones are at 1.8, 1.7, some are at 1.9.
But Japan is
when
epidemic
you go to
level of not
yeah.
producing. Like it's a problem. Their economy could just crash because there's no new Japanese people. Like there's just no new Japanese people being made. It's a very big problem. Like the most lucrative position now is like independent, the most lucrative business to start in Japan is a matchmaker service.
Wow.
Yes.
Let's go do that shit. Let's go start one.
But I mean, it's hard to get into Japan, which it should be hard to get into a country that's like as centrist and developed as they are.
Really, for sure. No, any kind of business in Japan's got to be a nightmare.
Yeah. So, I mean, that goes back to that generation of kids, man. Like, so that might be America. And here's the other thing though. What I hate is that like millennials are like, don't have kids. Well, how many kids do you have? Well, I mean, I got one. Like, they're like, having kids is terrible. Like, it's the worst thing that could ever happen to you. But I got like 2, so like.
There's a lot of people though who preach an ideal that they want other people to live.
Yeah, I could get behind it if they were doing it.
On both sides.
Yeah,
that's like that old thing on the right, like Saturday sinner, Sunday saint. Like it's the same bullshit, man. It's the same, self-righteous fucking. That's the issue that I see over and over again on either side, where it's like sanctimony. Everybody's blowing themselves, and me, I'm over here like just raw, flawed. I don't understand that mentality at all. Of like, it's not interesting. Like I want to meet people with dirt under their fingernails. You know what I mean? Like all these people who wear a veneer. A bullshit of like, I say all the right things, or I fucking believe in Jesus. I toe this line or I toe that line. It's like, can you just tell me what do you jerk off to? Let's get real. What's going on? Like, what is happening?
We talked
like,
about that weirdly enough in our
but
last
it's one of
talk.
when you get to know somebody though, right? As you break each other down, you figure each other out. Like, you find out that there's so many layers. There's so much that exists, and everybody's getting painted in these broad brushes. And like, as artists, all of us, everybody, like talking here, everybody that we've had on our show, because we're musicians. Like, that's the community we're in, right? Like, most of the people, like, they love so much of everything. You know what I mean? Like, that's what I don't understand about, like, who are we pointing at that are these hateful people in our circle? Like, I just don't know who it is.
Yeah.
I don't know who it is, and if they're there, like let's talk about it. Let's figure it out, because I don't understand it. And again, growing up Cuban,
it's me. That's what everybody thinks. It's just me.
I don't know, man.
No, everybody thinks it's just me.
Enough of us know you that don't feel that way.
No, I'm not talking about you guys. I'm talking about, like, the people that surround you.
Yeah, maybe not me, but yeah.
No, not you. Yeah, like you and I have, like, a good group of free-thinking friends.
I hang out with only very specific motherfuckers, man. I keep my circle small.
I'm gonna do this for you, Gene. Hold on, I'm gonna do this for Gene, because every time he says I'm the bad guy, and, like, he does that in anime. Every time. He said it's the glasses that people make.
That's funny.
I'm the bad guy. We had a request to talk about something. He said I'm evil. Yeah. From another person watching.
What was the request?
He was like, "Are we gonna talk about California legalizing pedophilia?"
Ugh. California's fucked, man.
I mean,
cut it off.
Yeah.
California's a cancerous limb. California's got gangrene.
Nancy Pelosi is, like, spearheading this bill to, like, normalize all sexual preferences.
Cut it off. They're trying to tax people who have moved there up to 10 years after they've left, up to 30% of their income. Get fucked.
So here's something that our friend posted, like, about this one act. It's like the All People Matter Act or whatever, and it's a lot of, like, the word.
Have we discussed my whole idea about getting the economy on track in regards to pedophilia?
Yeah. Have
we discussed my blast furnace idea?
Yeah, blast furnace in Wyoming. Yeah.
You pick states that have shitty economies. You get a massive project to build a giant blast furnace. And in that state, that creates a bunch of jobs. Then you got to have people who operate the blast furnace. Yeah. You got to have a lot of maintenance.
Throwing the pedophiles in there.
And then you got to have the TV crew that does the pay-per-view of the pedophile. And then anybody who fucks a kid, you throw them into the Wyoming blast furnace if they're on, like, west of Mississippi, and you do, like, a fucking, West Virginia.
Alabama.
Whatever.
Alabama, definitely.
Yeah, Alabama needs money and jobs.
You do one right. You do one in Alabama. You do one in Arkansas. We got enough pedophiles in the South. And if you do some horrible shit to your own kids, you get thrown in the blast furnace, but then they cut it off really quick and they throw you in again while you're
like on pay-per-view. That's the pay-per-view stuff.
Yeah, on pay-per-view. So that's my theory.
So there's that article.
Fuck California if that's what they're doing. I'll never go.
I'm not sure if it's exactly California, but I need more, like, documentation on that. But it's like this act that, like I said, Pelosi is, like, spearheading, where they're trying to word it where, like, you can't discriminate against, like, gay people, but I mean that's already kind of a thing. So the fact that, like, they add in what is it? What do they call themselves now? Minor attractive.
Yeah, whatever they call it, gross.
Yeah,
and
like they throw it in there casually though. They throw it in casually and then go back to the discriminating against gay people and trans people.
I'm not a member of the LGBTQ
like regular
community
stuff.
At all,
laws.
But I have watched a porn where a tranny fucks a fat girl. That's a whole different thing. Now, what I will say though,
I've seen everything.
If I was gay, I'd be super pissed off if that was getting added to that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
We wanted to talk to David about that.
And also, why can't gay people have their own fucking thing, man? Like, what? You know what I mean? Like, why can't they just have their own thing? Why does everything else got to get added in? Maybe androgynous people or queer people should have their own thing.
Why do you have to be grouped into
Why is it all
monolith?
conflated?
Yeah.
You can't do that with Latinos. You can't do that with black people. There's black people from Spain. They do. They got different cultures.
But that group does. You're Latinx, sir. Did you know that?
Yeah,
that's your group. You're Latinx.
Ask any Latino if they're Latinx.
Yeah, I've seen that.
They're gonna be like, "¿Qué dice?"
Yeah.
No, I know one.
So
I know one.
Our buddy that brought up this topic is their minor attracted people are maps. Yeah, they're getting maps. They call themselves maps. They're trying to get them like as a sexual orientation in California. I have like a conspiracy theory about that.
I got a kid, man. I can't even hear that shit because I don't make I get like hot skin.
No, I understand. I understand. That's all I'm really going to talk about. I have a conspiracy theory of why they might be doing that in California, because like it's kind of known, I know like all the Q shit is like bullshit, but I mean it's hard to ignore.
Listen, I don't think the Q shit should be maybe considered and brushed off as bullshit because
not all of it. That's what I'm saying. Not all of it.
That's what I'm saying. There's got to be some.
It's clearly
that Epstein dude. There's some real shit going on there.
That's what That's where I was going.
That.
There's a lot of there's a lot of Hollywood.
I'm in
people.
rant mode.
I know.
I've only just got back on the weed. Go ahead.
There's a lot of Hollywood people that live in California, right? That are going to be like outed by like the Epstein case, and not all of them can afford to pull a Tom Hanks or Steven Spielberg and move to Greece and become a citizen.
Here's the thing that I'm curious about too, though, right?
Because with
that Q shit, they're talking a lot about Ellen. Ellen all of a sudden's under the bus. Like a lot of the people that are mentioned in that.
Ellen's a prisoner.
How does that work? What does that mean? How is
Ellen
a prisoner?
Definitely a prisoner. Like
on house arrest or what?
By those people, yeah. Because like her stuff is, I feel like that's like, do you want to live? Then do this kind of thing. And I don't think she does because, like, this is kind of like a Q thing, but they use it as like a way to like show that she's like a bad person. But the way I see it, it's like a person trying to like drop hints to like help. Like, I need help. These people are bad. Like a lot of her.
But who are we talking about?
Like, yeah.
That's the problem I have. There's a lot of they.
You want to know a specific they? Like a lot of her set is set up like specific landmarks on Epstein's Island, and
I've heard that. Is that real?
Yeah. Like they're like blue and white temple or whatever. It's like that's one of her pillars that's always behind her.
I've heard people say like it's the same colors as Greece and Israel and all this different shit. Like there's all that conspiracy about it.
That's weird that you can move to Greece and if you're a map, it's considered a sexual orientation. And that, like, I don't understand how that's not incriminating for you to, in the wake of the Epstein thing, move there and become a citizen. Like, I don't understand how people, like, and I understand how people can think that a lot of the Q and QAnon stuff is crazy, but that's not a QAnon thing. That's a piece of news.
Yeah,
that's a fact.
That's weird.
That in the same time that the Epstein stuff is being released, they become citizens. That's not
that's a
thing.
Fucking guilty person escaping justice.
Yeah, they're fleeing.
Super weird.
They don't.
That's heartbreaking if Tom Hanks is really fucking.
I know.
That's heartbreaking.
After Forrest Gump, come on.
Dude.
Forrest Gump, Saving Private Ryan. Oh my god.
But I think so. Our buddy here is saying Ellen is represented by the same talent agency as Kamala Harris and Joe Biden. Creative Artist Agency. They're exposed in like a Podesta email. It says here, or that he's saying here. But yeah, like I don't think she's not.
Listen, our friend JoJo, who we had on, who talked about the Q thing, brought up a lot of good points, and I haven't done enough research to say one thing or another, but there's some fuck shit afoot.
Yeah, regardless what's true and what's not, some stuff adds up. Yeah.
I don't know if JFK Jr. is going to come back and kill people, or if fucking Donald Trump is fucking orchestrating it all like a puppet master, and this is all persona, like they tend to say. Like, I don't know any of that shit, but I'll tell you what. Bill Clinton flew on Epstein's plane 26 times.
Yeah.
That's fucking gross and weird, and that's a fucking president.
Yeah.
That's fucked.
And he spoke at the DNC like 2 days ago.
Fucked. They talk about this is like the Me Too party. Like, that dude is a fucking for real. How many times did he have to settle? How many accusations? Like, believe
when
all
he was
women,
president,
also,
it was like 12, right?
He was just pulling his dick out all the time. He's just an Arkansas savage, fucking animal, and fucking. It's just like, of course there's fucking creeps. And then, listen, I don't think Joe Biden is like a pedophile, but he really sniffs a lot of people, and that's weird.
Yeah.
He doesn't just sniff kids. Like, that's the thing.
Definitely
like,
weird as fuck.
He sniffs people that get in his tractor beam. He's like, you're close enough.
The best take on it that I've heard, though, is that he's kind of like an old person, and he's just like, oh, I love young people. Like, you know
I
what I
want to
mean?
smell
Like,
their
like,
youth.
Yeah, it's like because it doesn't seem sexual to me, if I'm honest.
No.
It just seems weird.
Yeah.
It's real weird.
Yeah.
Weird, like a creepy grandma.
Exactly,
my mother worked in nursing homes when I was a kid. She was an activities director, and she cut hair in nursing homes. And some old people just want to touch young people. There was even time my mother was saintly. I remember I was a little kid, and this lady's like, "Oh, my grandson came to visit me," and she was like telling everybody I was her grandson, and I was like, "You're not my grandma." And I was in like first or second grade. My mother fucking yanked me in her office quick, and she was like, "Any fucking person who tells you that they think that you're their grandchild in here, you're their fucking grandchild, and you be nice and you fucking humor them, because a lot of them are old and they're on their last legs and they're not in their right minds. You fucking be nice to them. You understand me?" And I was like, okay. And little did I know, like, a lot of old people were going to give me money because they think I'm their grandson. But the impetus was my mom being like, don't fucking, if that's what they think, let them. You know what I mean? Like, it does you no disservice to let them. And like, that's what I feel like when I look at Joe Biden. I feel like he's just like,
but that guy
he's on his last leg.
He's not all there. Like
he's not.
But again, Trump's the other option. How long are we going to let people deep in their 70s and into their 80s fucking run for president?
Yeah,
what is that?
I'm so tired of that.
Yeah.
By that time, you're so ingrained in the system
and you're
that
so far past your prime of decision making and mentality and ability of growth. Like, you're literally at the peak years for the decline and all of the different variants of IQ.
Yeah.
Like, it all drops off. Like, what are we talking about? This is who we're handing the reins of the free world to, or at the very minimum, our representativeship to the rest of the world. Like, this is so crazy.
And it doesn't matter like when
fucking Nana and Grandpa go for it. It's
And it doesn't matter like when somebody that's relatively young, right, comes up. All the people that control either side are so old. They're like, no, they can't even run. Like Andrew Yang and Tulsi Gabbard, I thought were great. That was the other thing that I hate too. When I'm participating, right, in watching the primaries, right, and I don't agree with everything that side says you should toe the line, but I'm still participating and watching it and interacting with them, and I say like Andrew Yang or Tulsi Gabbard is a good choice. I get called like a Republican plant. They're like, you can't listen to him. He's just trying to get you to vote for them so Donald Trump will win it. And I'm like, no. Like, Andrew Yang with Tulsi Gabbard or vice versa, statistically
if
had the highest percentage of beating Trump. And I'm not saying... And here's the other thing.
If Biden pulled in Gabbard, he might have won.
No. It has to be... Because the way she got hit, like politically, like politically assassinated... that would actually be worse. So
Gabbard, you think?
Yeah, no, because they tried to pull her into what she did when she was 16, where she worked for her dad's anti-gay camp, which she is, and that's like the only thing they have to hold on to.
Yeah, that's the only thing. Then there's just the fake bullshit. Oh, she's a Russian asset.
And that's just because she took a shot at Clinton.
Hillary Clinton said that
garbage.
shit.
I know. It's like, how are you going to believe that?
God, right? So like, what was
how
I
are
gonna
the
say?
Clintons? How are the Clintons still like
They have
taken
global
seriously
power.
at all?
They have global power.
But it's like they literally like fucking raped Haiti. They fucking have all these fucked up, awful, crooked foundations that they're involved in.
But it's
like,
all
so gross. The Bushes, it's the same shit. It's like the Bushes are fucking CIA family.
It goes back to what I was saying, where you already know, you can identify the things that are bad in the Republican side, the ideals, right? So anything coming from the left to most people is moderate. Like when they say like, oh no, you can't believe all those lies about Hillary because it's coming from the Republicans. So like all the moderate left people are like, oh, that makes sense. Like Republicans, like I can identify the bad ideals of the Republicans, and I know that like both sides cheat, but like if they're cheating and they're saying this, then I can believe it, right? That's the mind fuckery that goes on when you cast your lot in with one side or the other. But yeah, man, like, so what was I gonna say? Fuck. So it was something about the right, because they do a specific thing. They do a specific thing in what we were talking about. Shit.
I think at the end of the day, what we all kind of feel like is that we're continuously stuck in this thing of like choosing the least shitty of the shitty options.
Yeah.
And it's starting to get to the point now where like I think we all have become cynics in our generation. Like none of us like even like think it's. I mean, for me, it's like doesn't even matter. The differences are going to be so minuscule in our day-to-day lives, in my opinion, depending on who gets elected into office.
Yeah. So when I would say like Andrew Yang and Tulsi Gabbard are statistically have the highest percentage chance of beating Trump, right? I would then, this crazy thing. So these are the points when I get yelled at by both sides, and I literally get called both of their slurs, like one comment right after the other, right?
Like, you're a cuck from the Republican guys.
Yeah, like I literally am like a Republican shill, and the other side's like, only a snowflake would think that anybody could beat Trump, and I'm like, I'm not saying that they could.
I feel that way too. I feel like
I just said math.
No country.
Yeah, I just said math, and you both yelled at me. It's like, I just said math, dude. That's all, and nobody. That's why I don't understand getting called one side or the other, man.
I think we've all come to the conclusion again that it's broken.
Yeah,
we can't fix it. We don't have the money to fix it. That's the thing too of like when everybody asks like, well, why all lives matter? Why Black lives matter? Man, I say it over and over again. I said on this podcast a dozen times. Your life matters if you can afford a judge. If you can buy a judge,
matters.
You gotta fucking green. If you can afford a judge, you got a shot. You got a shot at your life actually like fucking mattering. Otherwise, you're just mixed in with the masses, man. You're fucked.
That's the only reason my family
buy land, stock ammo. Make sure you have chickens and rabbits on your farm because it's gonna get weird. I think it's gonna get weird. I think it's gonna get real strange.
I think it's gonna get very weird. I think at the point at which it gets very weird and very much a struggle is when people are actually going to actively like take it upon themselves to do the work to find a real working solution. Because we're seeing the breakdown of a lot of things, and there's been areas that have had more specialized impact than others, but like largely things are kind of the same, but they won't be for much longer.
Yeah.
And especially with like coronavirus and the way that, we just keep printing money and not paying attention to the devastating impact on small business and inflation in general.
Yep.
And where are all these jobs going to go? Who's going to create all these jobs? All of these things are going to raise problems, but that just being in a gridlock isn't going to solve. So when people finally start really feeling the burn is when people will actually move towards something,
some sort of active change rather than just
it's funny that you
barking
said that
slogans.
It's funny that you said that feel the burn thing too. It's like I like the ideals that like the Sanders campaign put forth, like a lot of them like make sense, and I believe that he is truly altruistic, at least initially, in what he was saying. The only pushback
he's also a millionaire though, man. Like,
no, just recently, and actually there's a funny timeline where you can see like how he stuck to his guns.
Endorsement?
He stuck to his guns.
Got him that million?
No, but he stuck to his guns, and then as soon as he became a millionaire, he literally like did a 180 on like on all his ideals. But that's not what I'm talking about.
That blows my mind.
That's not what I'm talking about, though.
Oh, go on.
What I'm saying is, so like if he was a president, that would be good. I wouldn't worry. But the only problem I have is, it's the people that run the government are the president and like 414 other people. So you would need Bernie and 414 other Bernies, or 300 other Bernies to get elected to make the change and keep it altruistic. Otherwise, if they did allow him,
nonetheless.
they would either stop him. He just would not be able to do anything, or they'd be like, no, go ahead, do this, but we're gonna fucking pull all the money out of it on the back end and fuck people over more. That was my only concern with him, and I was like, show me his at least 300 other people that he's actively trying to get elected that are not like hardcore Democrats or Republicans, that are pretty much independent like he is in all of the states, and I can get on board with that. Otherwise, until you have that big movement, I can't really support him. Like, it's cool, like I like that, it's cool, but no, man, It's not a movement. It's just him. Unfortunately, that's
Yeah.
the problem.
I agree. I think all these things, and and that's why, you already see like there's these self-regulatory agencies that kind of reinforce the existing narrative, like the
Yeah.
DNC
Mhm.
fucking both Tulsi and Bernie
And
Sanders over, and you
yeah,
ask, why
and
why would
Andrew
they do
Yang.
that? What's the
Yeah.
Yeah.
advantage of fucking over their own candidates? Well, these were the people that were denying the PAC money,
Yeah.
and all of the campaign contributions were more like individual donor or
Mhm.
workers union funded.
Yep.
And when you have all this money in politics, that in and of itself already fucks up the system. But
Yeah.
then, like you said, you have one person, one altruistic person, and then we have all these regulatory agencies that want to reinforce the status quo because it's the thing that works for them the
Mhm.
best. And so, unless you have some sort of major grassroots movement behind that, there's no
For
lasting
everybody.
impact.
Yeah.
That person's going to get blocked. Like he got blocked. Even if he got in, he would have gotten blocked in office by
Yep.
Congress or the Senate.
Every
And
day.
in order to really get some sort of like real change, it's going to have to take, some sort of way to get a majority of these
People out
altruistic
or get
individuals,
in.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, in and get the old out. And that's why like it seems like the presidential race is sometimes or maybe always has been sort of a shell game where you're focused on oh, do I want this guy or do I want this guy? But really, the guy in the back is the one pulling the strings. You
Yeah.
don't
Yeah.
see his face, but he's the one making the big calls, and you put all of your focus on the showy mouthpiece that
Yeah.
catches your eye, but you don't like really pay attention. Like I remember, when Obama was elected or whatever, and everyone's like, oh great, this is going to be awesome. And then he pretty much did the same corporate elitist
Yeah.
bullshit that every other
Andrew talks
fucking
That's
about
my
president.
that's
You,
literally my exact story
Yeah.
with Obama.
He
Yeah.
talks about it all the
yeah,
time. Yeah.
yeah.
Listen.
He talked big game, and I believed it. He was
Yeah.
good at
I
talking the
expected
big game. He
marijuana.
was
I
very
expected
silver
marijuana
tongued with it. I was like,
legalization.
he's got it. This is gonna be good.
Yeah.
This is my guy.
Yes.
Nobody thought it
Um,
was gonna be the
I
same.
thought Guantanamo
and
was going to
then
get
and
shut
then same
down.
shit. Drone
Yep.
strikes like
Dude,
Yeah.
432%.
extreme radicalization
And
of the
then
Middle East under
Yeah.
Obama based on
yeah,
those drone strikes. Like
yeah, yeah,
it's horrific. And that's the thing that bothers me, honestly, about all the Trump hate. Not that I give a fuck about Trump or
Exactly,
like him, because
yeah.
I think he's a fucking dopey chode. I'm from Florida, man.
yeah,
Trump's a fucking dopey rich guy, like
Yeah.
every other dopey rich guy in Florida. And like, but the thing that bothers me is that everybody wants to be like, he's the worst ever. It's like, no, man.
No.
They're all
They're all the
awful.
worst ever. Yeah.
They're
yeah,
all really, really, really
only-
bad. And if maybe
Yeah.
we should say thank you that such a big douchey personality got into office to give that level of scrutiny, because I hope the next president gets scrutinized as hard. That's the only worry that I have, that scrutiny
Yeah.
won't exist with the next person,
that's-
because it's like, oh, we're back to normal. We can let it go. And it's
Listen.
like, it's all so gross.
I mean, you know how
Yeah.
I told you about like my turning point in like when I kind of stopped being that super left douche was like David Cross's stand up. Also, there was
Yeah,
another
we talked
thing.
about it on the show.
Yeah, like David Cross accused like George W. Bush of eating babies. That guy choked on a soft pretzel. Like that dude's not. That dude is actually. George Bush too is like the most puppet of all puppets. Like he literally was not the president. He was literally.
He's the only president I would want to have he's the only living president I would want to have a beer with.
and that's
Smoky
and
Joe.
people are
He
like,
seems like he'd be a good hang.
And people are like, well, we tried electing like an everyday guy, and that didn't work out.
Clinton
He
would
was a
try and fuck your
warmonger.
wife. Like Clinton's a creep.
But so there was that
Fucking-
too, right? And then the Daily Show also was like laying in on him, like he was like the most evil person in the world. And then, like David Cross and the Daily Show, as soon as like Obama got elected, it was all sunshines and farts. They fucking had him on the fucking show as a president, and were
Yeah.
like sucking his dick. And I was like, no, like he's doing good and bad things too. Why are you only highlighting his good things? Like,
Do you think that Trump will experience the same, like everybody loves him after, like
No,
with Bush?
no,
Like everybody
no,
likes
it's
Bush
different.
now?
No, it's different, and I can tell you why. So, like, I like I said, I'm not a super Trump guy, but there is, I think he's gonna have at least an assassination attempt, like before the election, and if he gets elected again, I think like he's gonna have multiple assassination attempts, not from like directly like an extreme leftist group, but like set up like the same way like Kennedy was like set up, by people in the government, because Trump has just kind of like done the regular douchebag president thing until recently. He did like two things that got shot down right away, voted at 100%. Like everybody in the House and the Senate voted 100% against it. He tried to stop them from giving themselves raises, and he tried to what the hell else did he do in that regard? He tried to like limit their power as more of like what it was originally set up to be, where like they can only vote yes or no on whatever they're voting on if like the people of their constituents have to agree with their vote, kind of thing. And those were shot down immediately. Yeah, like those were like they literally 100% voted against him on that. Like there was no like.
I didn't actually know about that second one getting shot down. I knew about that being proposed, and I was like, oh, that's actually a good idea. They'll have to do what their constituents want.
It didn't even make it through the first round.
Of course it fucking didn't.
No government entity is going to relinquish power ever, man.
That's
they don't relinquish. They don't ever take a step back.
Yeah, man, that's what I'm saying. Why I think he's gonna get shot. Like, I think he's to the point where he's like, well, I don't give a fuck if I don't get reelected, whatever. Like, fuck them all, Like, they're all being shitty to me. Fuck you guys. You don't get more money, and you got to be held accountable. And they're like, oh, like no. He even said like I have to lay low for a little bit, like right after he did those things, and they got shot down. I was like, what do you mean you got to lay low for a little bit, dude? Like, you think people are coming to shoot you now? Like, and I mean it's within the scope of reality because, our government did it to JFK, so why not him? And all JFK said was
I think
like,
he'd have to rock the boat a little bit more because, I mean, JFK was attacking the military-industrial complex, and that's just not a beast you're going to slay, especially as, like, one man.
Especially in that era.
That's what I'm saying.
Especially in that era.
Yeah, that goes back to the one-man thing. Like, if, let's say Bernie does make real change, and he does enact all these things, he's just a dead man. Like, I mean, and it's not... It has to be, like, a crazy movement. Oh, yeah, that was the other thing. Trump tried to get rid of lobbyists. That didn't even make it to the proposal phase.
Wow.
Like, that was just like, no, man, we're tearing this up on like in transit to delivery. Like, that was... Like, he tried to do all those things, and he took away, what is it? Like, he took away income tax. Like, that was right before he did his showy things, for the coronavirus. Like, he did those three things. They got shot down, and then he's like, well, fuck it, you don't get tax money. Like, he's messing with their money, like, any way he can right now, and
fucking with the bag.
You can't fuck with these guys' money because that's all they are is money and control. So like, that's like I said, I'm not a Trump fan, but objectively, like, he tried to fuck with their money, and you just signing your own death warrant. That's all. Regardless of, like, I mean, he's a scumbag. Like, I know he's definitely like raped people.
What's your prediction? When's the first attempt?
What's it? November 4th. Let me look at the calendar. I can give you like a really accurate timeline at the end of August.
Because it's got to be soon, right? And we're talking about creeping up
the end
on
of
November
September.
In mere months.
The end of September.
The end of September, they take a shot at him.
Yeah. Something happens
at
the end of September, and they verify it as like an assassination attempt or whatever. But yeah, man, like, I don't. We're back to like criticizing him for like no reason. Like during some riots or whatever, I think a big thing on Facebook was like, oh yeah, look at 4 years ago, or like, what is it, 6 years ago, Obama had the rainbow lights all over the White House, and now Trump's hiding in his bunker. Like, I was like, okay, so let me explain to you like how the Secret Service works. They get like 200 threats on the president every day, and they send him into the bunker if one of them has like over a certain percentage of credibility. And at that time, there were probably more than 200, and if anything had any credibility, they were like, you got it, throw him into the hole, throw him in the hole. Like, you're making fun of the president for hiding, like, for literally probably being like yoked up by the Secret Service, and they're like, you gotta come with us. Like, I'm like, I understand you don't like him, and it's very understandable why you don't like him. Like, he's a douche. But like, now, like, they're reaching. Like, it's everybody's that has like legitimately. I know it's like a a divisive term from the right, but like Trump derangement syndrome is like legitimately real. Like you, just like I say Obama derangement syndrome was real to like the far right people. Like nothing, you can spin anything into hate, and I don't know. It's real weird to me.
Isn't it funny how once people started talking about being triggered, like everybody now has a trigger? Like every group all of a sudden has
now
like,
it's a thing. Well, I
dude,
mean, it was
you
a
talk
thing
to certain
before.
Republicans and you say Obama, it's automatically like,
Yeah.
or like the minute you say something bad about Trump, they'll be like, but Obama, or if you say something bad about Obama,
Yeah.
but Trump, it's like weird as fuck. Like you don't even know the guy.
Exactly. Yeah.
That?
People are defending
How
people
about
or attacking people that they don't personally know.
Everybody who takes so much energy politically, like rah-rahing or like shitting on the opposite like side, why not take that and go like, okay, I have a friend who has a business, I will invest that much energy into that friend's business, like by buying their shit or promoting their shit or sharing their shit. I don't understand all this like banner waving for somebody you just don't know. Maybe because I'm like a tribal individual, but like to me it's like, if I saw you, Novoloso, getting beat up by two Cuban guys, I wouldn't go, well, Novoloso's my friend.
But these guys are
like
Cuban.
Personal friend, but these guys are Cuban. So what do I do here? No, it's going to be like, oh, I'm going to just start hitting these guys who are hitting my friend. Like,
yeah.
I don't understand this whole thing about, like, you have to be of this certain team, this certain, like, it just doesn't make sense. I don't get it. And I don't get the people who live and die by that mentality.
I think this goes back to like what Oliver was saying, like that going away, the inner monologue going away. And I think he actually probably can give insight to that because I know like roughly like that's like a part of our like monkey brain is the tribal, like you have to be a part of like a group. Yeah. Like it's hardwired into your survival. And if you start taking away that inner monologue, that's kind of like the only thing controlling you, right?
Yeah.
Like,
I think that people have a weaker sense of identity. I don't know, why this might be, or maybe I'm wrong, but I do think that people have less of a sense of identity, so they seek it in these external things, and they attach themselves to these monologues because it makes them feel part of a group. It defines them. It provides meaning for who they are and what they stand for. Yep. And so, like, when you just touch, you can just graze these topics, and their engine is already revving a certain way, and it's hard to like, slow down that rev, like, cool it down, and, let's talk. And I don't know. I don't know what makes people, by and large, act this way. I also think that, like, a lot of the silent majority, like, are dubbed so because they don't necessarily think this way, but like instead of engaging in it, they roll back, they disengage, which is understandable, but at the same time, like then you just let the loud minority speak for you, and that rules the discourse as it seems to be doing and has been doing for a while, and it provides like the image or the appearance of these thoughts or these intellectual pathways being more legitimate or more widespread than they really are, because it's only these people that are really like posting shit every day, or like bothering to post on someone else's comment or whatever how they're a Nazi or some shit.
Yeah.
Right.
But I feel no offense to Doug, but like I feel like that was like the profound, educated version of what Doug was saying. Was like explaining to you when you were like how our experiences are like external and theirs are internal, so they have to, like Oliver said, like attach themselves to something external.
Right. They have to find. Well, it goes back to that like the Q thing too, where it's like, when you buy into one of those ideologies, all of a sudden you've given another level of importance to your life that maybe it didn't have before, whether it's an extreme left ideology, an extreme right ideology, but the idea that it has to be, this thing, like there's no way around it being this one way, and it becomes so all important. a lot of these people who feel that way are fucking losers. They don't have shit going on, man. Like, no matter what slant any of our friends have politically, as far as what they believe, whatever, they all have their own shit going on. They all have their lives to live, and they all worry about their personal, their creative, their financial growth. And these causes are tertiary at best because there's so much other shit in their lives going on.
Yeah.
So
I think
No, go ahead.
Go ahead.
I think that's part of the breakdown of nuance. I think that, you know, part of the income stagnation, and, you know, generally people have to work harder for the same maybe like quality of life or what would be considered like acceptable standard of living than they had to previously. Like, people have to work harder to pay their rent. Rent is higher than the income has proven to match up with. So, you know, people are focused on just, you know, surviving, just living, just getting their shit together, and like how you said that these other things are tertiary.
Yeah.
Like, you know, when you have a larger amount of leisure time, you have the time to invest these things, to do the research, to develop a nuanced perspective.
Yeah.
But like if you're working, like, you know, a 40-hour-a-week job or more or whatever, and
plus,
you know,
pursuing a passion,
kid or two.
Yeah,
you're pursuing a passion. You got a kid or two. Like, you know, your life isn't, you know, 3 or 4 hours of like investigating topics. You're seeing stuff that maybe you see as you idly scroll through Facebook, and you don't even click the article. You see the headline, and you're like,
headlines. So.
You know, developing your ideas off of that. And then because you haven't really taken the time to ruminate on a specific topic, all you have are talking points, all you have are headlines, and, you know, your mind isn't experienced with taking something and like hearing what someone says, not painting it a certain way, taking it in, like, and chewing it through with your mind so that you can spit something back out that actually makes sense. And you know, it's hard. I mean, you know, there's not really a way to just like quick and easy get that leisure time back. I mean, people have lives to live. That takes an obvious necessary precedent to like looking at a specific political thing. But I think that that's part of what is causing this breakdown of nuance in the political discourse and just disagreements in general. Because people don't just have time to think about it that much, because, you know, you can only think about so many things, you can only do so many things.
Yeah.
And, you know, these things aren't as important. I don't know.
Yeah.
That makes me wonder if like we are physically capable of like managing the amount of information that we're inundated with on a daily basis. Like we know like people are different height, different build, right? People have different muscular density. Some people have shitty joints. Some people have whatever. Like,
yeah.
The average though, like, are our brains? Do we have the wattage to fucking deal with this level of information constantly being pumped in, and do we have the ability to properly disseminate all this? And is that people not chewing things through like a symptom of like the average brain not being able to contend with that level of bombardment? You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like
I think we're flooding the bandwidth, and because of that, you know, just all of the information is getting skewed because we're oversaturated with so many things.
Right, because when you hear bad news now, you don't just hear the bad news from your community, you hear all the bad news. Like, you can get every horrific story in your timeline just by following all the main news sources. So, like, I feel like we're hardwired for, like, this tribal life, this small town life, and I don't think that our hardware has caught up.
Your monkey brain. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's what I mean. Like, we're
and,
are we destined to evolve and, like, the rest fall off? Like, what is the...
I want to expand upon that.
Step? Well, that's what I mean. Like, what is the next... Go ahead, yeah.
So I want to expand upon that. So
I'm asking you, smart fuckers.
We may have figured out, like, so that is definitely the reason, like you said, Oliver, like, flooding the bandwidth so much that our...
that's a great way to put it, too.
Our, like, main... Like, the part of our brain that makes us human is, like, it can't function properly. So then this part, like, your brainstem just takes over. And it having... all that information is not good. Like
Yeah.
that it having the flood of information is not good because while the high functioning part of your brain is trying to process it, the something else like you're basically on autopilot. Like and
Yeah, I would
autopilot
agree
with
that
those
that's
views
the
are bad.
default program that we
Hmm.
have installed in our software, and
Yeah,
the like evolved, high functioning conceptual mind is,
getting
dare I
blinded.
say it, a privilege,
Yeah,
but like just
but
the
it's getting
the
blocked.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's getting blocked, it's getting muddled, it's getting like I think the constant like with just entertainment or with like really almost all mostly entertainment, where there's so much happening, like your dopamine, all your neurotransmitters are going fucking crazy all the time, and I don't know how this might relate to. I think there's either increasing awareness or just increasing levels of mental health like problems
Yeah.
might also be some way related to this, and that also if you're going through some sort of personal struggle or whatever, you're not going to think rationally about these fucking issues.
Hmm.
It requires a calm like center of being to really think things through.
Yeah.
And if you don't do that, then yeah, you default to the monkey brain
Yeah.
and you think tribal.
And rah rah rah. I'm actually this is one of my been my personally my favorite podcast so far, Andrew, because I like I actually wanted to talk to you, Oliver, about something that we talked to Doug about. Um,
Yeah.
so Doug and I both grew up like very like privileged, like suburbs, didn't want for anything, you know. We had to go out and fuck up on our own to get real perspective, right? And the way I described it to Andrew, because he can't comprehend like that type of upbringing, right? And
Yeah, I grew up with animals.
yeah, so I think I explained to them best. Like that band, that New Jersey band, Brand New, like the biggest emo band, Oliver. No,
Yeah.
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 So like their struggle is a girl broke their heart, right? And Andrew asked, "Is that and like that's their coming of age?" And Andrew was pointing out how like people that grew up like him and like older generations, like coming of age was like going to war or like
Yeah, or
something
loss
real
of
or
some sort.
or a
Yeah.
real loss or
Yeah.
death. And these
Yeah.
kids that are crying and whining about everything being racist and stuff, like their coming of age is like a girl broke my heart and she'll never understand me. What Andrew asked
Yeah.
was, is that equivalent to like losing a parent at a young age? And Doug and I both just were like, no, that is not. Like it's not the same thing at all. But I don't know,
Yeah.
like from your perspective, like thinking more, because like we're like Andrew doesn't have like the reference, but we do, and I feel like we were biased and just being like, no, like that is no, there's no equivalent
Bro,
there at
yeah,
all.
I
But
just always wonder
I
about the
feel like
relativity of it.
but I feel like you're more objective, and like hearing both situations, like
Right.
I don't know, what do you think they're like equivalent? Because it's just like you can't compare my stab wound to that guy's gunshot wound because we both think it's pain. I understand that aspect, but I still don't believe it in that coming of age trauma, being equivalent. What do you think?
Well, I don't think that it's equivalent, but I also think that certain people take things a different way. You might handle the struggles that like befall upon you because maybe they seem standard or normalized to you, whereas you never know how personally someone's taking like another struggle.
Right.
I still wouldn't say that they're tantamount because
Yeah.
I don't believe that they are. Um, but
That's like
like
what they're
for
pushing though, like it's just as bad as like everybody dying that I know. Like I
Right.
just
yeah,
don't.
yeah. I think everyone's just a little extreme, and that's just them not seeing nuance. I think that like brand
And
new
again,
singing
though,
about that
That's
stuff is just because heartbreak is a ubiquitous thing that we
yeah.
all like experience.
But that's like the
But
worst thing that's
but going
happened
back
to
to
me.
the
yeah,
empathy part.
yeah. That's just ridiculous.
Yeah.
I
Going
think
back to the
that that's
empathy
just
part,
like
though.
it's a cheap thing that they're
Yeah.
trying to push because everybody feels it and everybody can
All
get
right.
behind a heartbreak or a love song.
Yeah,
But
that
the
that kind of
nuance you were just
validates.
talking about,
Yeah, like what Doug and I were saying. I
the
don't think
nuance
we
you were
had the
talking
words
about,
to
though.
describe it the way you did, though. Like, thank you. Like, that's awesome.
Yeah, no problem.
But the nuance you're talking about, I think, is like really important to look at it from both sides too, right? Like, my wife was going through breast cancer, 2019, and a buddy of mine, a really good buddy of mine, who's a really, really thoughtful guy, was going through a breakup, and he was talking to me about his breakup, and then like partway, and I was like, you know, talking to him about it. I'm a little older than him, so he was asking me some advice and stuff, and like we were talking about it, and then partway through it, he was like, "Oh my God, what a fucking asshole I am! Like you're going through like this whole other thing," and I was like, "Dude, like I'm still your friend, and that still sucks for you. You know what I mean? Like it's not like it's any. It doesn't make my thing. You know what I mean? It didn't make my thing any harder or easier or whatever. It's still a shitty thing that my friend is going through that I can have empathy for. And if I was in the venting mode, he would have heard me vent. You know what I mean? So it's all like, there's not like a level. Like I hate that. Like growing up poor, when you meet other people who grew up poor, there's always this thing of like, oh, we had this poor thing we used to do. Yeah, we did this poor fucking, and it's like a competition, like trying to outpour each other. And it's like, I hate that.
Yeah, that's so gross. Much. And then, like, you know, you never know, like, someone might be fucked up from a heartbreak for, like, you know, 7 years, and maybe someone lost their mother when they were young, and that was a horrible thing for them, but maybe they handled it in a more, like, progressive way, like, the other person went down and started using drug use and, like, bringing on a whole horde of other things, and maybe the other person, like, you know, developed a more, like, mature sense of self, or a sense of responsibility, or, like, a sense, like, you know, having more, like, not a hardened heart in that, you know, in a bad way, but in that, like, you understand that trauma is going to be a part of life, and, like, eventually, if you live long enough, everyone around you is going to die, and that sucks, but that's something that's going to happen too, and you better prepare yourself for that.
Yeah.
And, you know,
growing up. Essentially.
Growing up. And
that's literally my story. My mother passed away when I was 19. My sister was 12. My brother was 17 or 16. And you know, we have different dads. My dad is kind of nuts, and their dad was like a tramp. So it was like we had to figure a lot out on our own. I often say that although it was a horrific experience and a massive loss, my mom was only 44 years old. Like it was like earth-shattering for us. I would most assuredly not be the same person that I am today. I had to discover a lot of things on my own. I had to develop empathy that I might not have had, and I had to harden myself in some ways and soften myself in others. And my mother was a doting parent. She would have made my life much easier for much longer had she been alive, and I would not have developed the same insights. It's just one of those things where it offered me endless growth in that trauma. So I like you said, that example strikes so close to home, specifically because literally I look back at that situation and I can vividly remember every aspect of myself in that moment prior and in the moment after, and every step of the way through that experience, the intensity of my development couldn't be understated. Like everything that I experienced in that time frame had a massive effect on my development, and that experience alone like gave me that insight to say like, yeah, it doesn't matter what your trauma is or what my trauma is. It's how we experience
how we deal with it and how we grow from it,
what we gain from it. Absolutely.
I can give insight to the girl breaking my heart and being fucked up over it for years. I didn't have any of that like profound shit. I was just a shitty person. Like, so like when I recognize that person and like that had that upbringing and they try to like be profound and shit, I'm like, dude, the worst thing that fucking ever happened to you is like some girl cheated on you. Like, come the fuck on. Like, don't fucking sit here and platitude to me when like
that's your trigger.
Yeah, like when fucking like my friends have like, and I think what really like hit me is that like I would try to share with my friends like I had fucking had like real loss, and they would be like, it's okay, like you'll be all right, like this bad thing happened to me, and I was just like, I couldn't fathom that they were normal, like normal, like being normal with me, because I was like, if that shit happened to me, like I would just die, like that would be it, you know. And so like while I haven't had the direct experiences, and I'm not claiming that I understand anymore, all I can do is recognize like that shitty person that I was like in other people, and just be like, nope, you're totally fucked, and it'll be maybe you'll come out of it, maybe you won't, but like, nope, You just have bullshit as your trauma.
Yeah, there's definitely a line where people are just like feeling sorry for themselves and being like,
that's what it was. I was just feeling
for lack
sorry
of a
for
better
myself.
word, being pathetic and just self-pitying.
Dude, I cried
and,
in
like,
the shower and drank
You're digging your
beer.
own hole, and you know whatever thing happened to you, you're just magnifying it. You're putting a magnifying glass on that fucker and making it your life story.
Yeah,
it's like a pastime almost.
For 1 year, I cried in the shower and sang brand new songs while my dad like brought food up to my fucking room for like 1 year.
Yeah.
Like that's why the fuck no, like you fucking move on, fucking do shit, you know, like that. There's no point. Like that's all I was doing. I was
but
just
maybe you had to have that
myself.
experience to get to that point where you're like fucking.
No, I was still a
shit,
shitty person after that. Like I said, it wasn't until I interacted with people with like real, like, problems, you know, like
and got perspective.
Yeah, all I gained was perspective. I didn't gain understanding. Like I still don't understand. You know, I can understand that I don't understand. Like you say with things, Andrew, but the people that are going through that crying in the shower, singing brand new, drinking beer, they don't have any perspective, I guess is what we've come to figure out in this whole scenario. Yeah. And I can just recognize that person. Like, oh yeah.
Well, me and Mike talk about it all the time. Mike will say, not you, Mike, but our other Mike, super thick Mike. He'll say some wild shit about his own people. And at times I want to be like, man, that's fucked up. But then I'll think about my own people and be like, I call them guineas and spicks. And I call them guineas and spicks a good reason because I've seen some guinea shit, spick shit pop off. And it's just like, you know, no one can lampoon their own like their own. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like, that is what it is in my opinion too. That's another thing I appreciate when people can, like we talk about it all the time, Mike. Like we break down the negatives of our own people.
Yeah.
You know what I mean, on a regular basis. Like,
but
I think we do it with great importance.
But we don't do it like. So here's my problem with white people doing it is we're doing it like pointing out specific traits and like instances, right? And like this is a likely scenario. People that are white that do that to themselves, like do it in like a monolithic sense, like all white people are terrible racist thing.
We talked about that with Daniil, right? White is kind of a bullshit identity because like Lithuanians are white.
That's the other thing too.
I mean, English people are white, Germans are white, there's white Dutchmen.
Why aren't Europeans in Europe white according to like this
it's a different
world view or whatever?
It's ridiculous.
All
that shit to me is
they're just
like
cousins of the white people here.
Is bullshit.
Yeah, they're all just cousins of the white people here. So then, that's.
It's like, what is white? Yeah. What is, you know what I mean? Come
exactly.
On. What is black? Listen, black people in Alabama have a specific culture. Black people in Maryland have a specific culture. Black people in LA have.
And don't call black Islanders black.
Yeah, like, bro. It's a whole different thing, man.
Shit.
Don't call a black Dominican guy black. Be like, oh yeah, chico, I am not black. I am from Dominican Republic. Like it's a whole. It is what it is, man. Like everybody's their own shit, and it's so ridiculous. Like that's the thing that I think the conclusion we keep arriving at, where it's like nobody we know is on that shit. You know what I mean? Everybody's kind of like just living their life, living their life.
I know those people.
Yeah, I don't, man. I'm glad I don't.
I
don't deal with that shit.
Unfortunately,
I only know them on the internet. I only see them on the internet.
I know them in real life. And it's strange. You know, the only thing that I can say about the people I know in real life that are like that is that they will at least give me the credit to saying, well, like, you know what? I bet if we like talked in person, I could understand what you're trying to say. And I know you're not just saying this to say it online. Like if we were talking about this, you would say the same thing.
Well, that's hopeful.
In person. Yeah, that's. But they're like, but you're still a giant piece of shit. And I'm like, yeah, I know, it's cool. It's all right.
I think that's the perfect note to end it on.
Yeah. Mike's a giant piece of shit. End it on that.
Strike midnight, and I think you're a giant piece of shit, but that's okay. Well, Oliver, I'm fucking super glad we had you on. This is
thanks for having me, man. This was a lot of fun.
I was already looking forward to us getting together in the coming week, and now I am more so. This was a fucking great chat, and I cannot wait to film some music together. And check us out on our Patreon.
Shirts.
Mike, we got shirts. We're gonna have more shirts coming out after this week. More shirt designs.
Yep.
We're gonna have more content up in the coming week. We're gonna have another new episode of Chefed Up, which we'll be shooting this week. We're gonna maybe shoot 2 food episodes, maybe more this week if we can. And keep a lookout for our shit. Oliver, plug some stuff.
Yeah.
I'm playing tomorrow at Sailfish Brewing Company from 6 to 9. And then Saturday I'm playing at Sailfish Brewing Company's in Fort Pierce. And I'm also playing Saturday at Perk to Cuesta from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. for brunch. And then we'll see what other trouble I can get into over the weekend.
Awesome. Do you have anything coming up the following weekend?
Yeah, I have Grandview Public Market from 6 to 9 on Friday. And then I have, Perk to Cuesta is the following Saturday. Okay. This Saturday I'll be in Sebastian at the Sebastian Tiki Bar and Grill.
Awesome.
So I'll have some shows over the weekend.
Well, shit, when I'm in town that weekend, maybe I have to come out and listen to you do your thing.
We'll both go out.
Yeah.
And what can people expect to see at your shows? Like, what are you doing?
I play a little bit of a mix of everything. Do some Elton John, I do some Stevie Wonder, play some old blues, play some reggae because it's a tiki bar.
Yeah. And South Florida. Yeah.
I got the RC 300 looper, so I've been fucking with like putting in the drum track. And I have an octave pedal for the bass.
Great voice too, man.
Awesome.
Fantastic voice.
Thank you.
Awesome. I think I've seen you out before, like before all this stuff happened.
I was probably drunk as shit.
No, I mean like playing
Good
out.
chance.
Playing out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was still probably drunk as shit.
Oh yeah. So another thing too, though, with our Patreon, we're still looking for our first Patreon.
Yes, we haven't had one, but when you subscribe to our Patreon, you will get our first subscribe. You will get the only episode of Chefed Up that was shot not in podcast form. The first episode that is one of our Patreon, and you could watch Mike Morrison and I both die and come back to life in that episode.
Well, no, like you'll get that if
you can see that Reggae Lou and Pete are made out of just insanity.
Mostly Pete. Pete is made out of concrete.
Fine.
There was nothing happened to him at all.
Lou was like, I threw up later. I was fucked up later.
Pete was just like, it was whatever.
He's like, I'm from Michigan.
Yeah, that's all we do out there.
Our water's brown. I'm from Michigan.
But no,
it's fucking fine.
The first person to do our Patreon, like if you subscribe at any level, you get like the higher Patreon level where we'll have you on the show. So it'll be cool. Yeah, that's about it. That's all of our show.
Fantastic.
Thanks for having me, guys.
All right.
Hey man, looking forward to seeing you in the week to come, brother.
Bye. Hey, I still want to talk to you after the show.
Yeah, stay on the call. Stay on the call, but we're not.
All right.
We're not going anywhere. They're going.
Bye.